Welcome to Borders Rugby Special, coming to you from Philip Hoch this week. I'm Hugh Brown, and for the next 3 hours we will be bringing you the latest score updates and live commentary from our featured match today between Selkirk and Hawick in the Premiership. We'll also look ahead to Scotland's autumn test match against Australia at Murrayfield, which kicks off at 5:30. But let's start off this afternoon with a chat with the two coaches in our commentary game today. We'll hear from Matty Douglas, head coach of Hawick, shortly. But first, it's nice to welcome to Borders Rugby Special with the head coach of Selkirk, and that's Scott White. Scott, good to see you again.
Likewise, Hugh. How are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. Yourself, looking forward to the game?
Yes, just exactly what I've said to the players. You know, it's if you can't get up for a Selkirk-Hawick border derby, there's no point in being here.
You had a bit of a glitch last week, didn't you, because you lost at home to Curry?
I mean, look, our home form's not been great, to be honest. We've played 4 times at home this season and lost twice, actually, so we've only got a 50% record. But I think, look, credit to them. They had a real kind of positive reaction out the week before losing to Hawick, and they came down here with a game plan, obviously, and I think, credit to Mark Cairns, Ali Donaldson, they put that in place, and we came up short, but looking at it at the time, we thought we were miles away. But I think, having looked at it through the week, when you can look at it in a wee bit more detail over the computer and stuff and do some analysis, we're no far away. The
previous week, though, it was the opposite, wasn't it? Because you actually took all the points at Mar. That was a good result for you.
Oh, brilliant. And I mean, we've kind of tagged this 3-week window as an international serious autumn test, because we've had Mar away, last year's champions, Curry at home, who were in the final, and obviously Hawick, who made top 4 last year, and they're obviously sitting at the top in great form at the moment. So we've targeted, or we're looking at trying to win 2 of the 3 games, so we're down to last week, and that obviously means one thing today.
Absolutely. What's your team news then, Scott?
Team news today, we're fairly settled up front. Ross Nixon's actually been playing at 6 the last few weeks, but just due to Ryan Godsmark, and Ryan Godsmark's obviously come in for a 6-week stint. He's away back to Belgium, and Andrew Grant picked up an injury last week, so Ross is actually back into the back line, so that means Andrew Cochrane moves up to middle row, who was on the bench last week. Andrew McComb will go from 8 to 6, and Monroe Job comes back this week from illness last week. In the back line, we're obviously, it's great to welcome Craig Jackson for debut today. I think the experience that comes with him could prove crucial today in such a border test, and to be honest, we've actually rolled the whole back line from last week, so Ryan Cottrell's the only person that remains in the same position as last week, so everyone else is playing in a different position today.
Is that difficult for the guys to get used to and play together as a team if you move them around in positions?
Look, I think they're a great group of guys, and they'll do what's required and what's best for them and the team, and that's where we've got. And in fairness, they know that it's probably the forward pack that's been keeping us in the last few weeks, and from a backs point of view, we've really got to up our game, and we're now 8 games in, and I'll be honest, I don't know my best backline, and that's where we are. But I think it's great to be able to mix it up and change pictures for coaches as well, because then we become hard to analyse.
You've got 2 co-captains on the pitch, recently, Aaron McComb and Luke Petty. Who is it that's actually going to be talking to the referee on your behalf today? Well,
it's hard to stop Luke talking at the best of times. So, I'll probably be Luke. He's at the coalface at it. He's really stepped up to that leadership role this year. He comes with a huge amount of experience. He's obviously getting on now in years, but I think what he's done for the younger guys and how he leads the squad on a Saturday, and I thought, last Saturday is probably the best day he's played in a Selkirk jersey.
And it's the first day of the season. Looking back to that, you drew at Mansfield Park against Hawick with a much weaker team, so you'll presumably draw on that for inspiration today.
No, look, we're in a good place. I mean, if somebody said we were going to be in 4th, at the halfway point, given where we were last year, I think, but credit to the guys, we've kept the squad fit away from injuries, and that's obviously key. And look, we're back to kind of where we started the conversation again, and if we can't get up for a local derby at home against Hawick, for me, you shouldn't be playing rugby.
And it's all about getting points, of course, to keep in those playoff places. But also today, it's interesting because the Bill McLaren Shield is up for grabs. Hawick currently hold it. I don't think Selkirk have ever had the Bill McLaren Shield. Am I right?
Well, you might be right. I don't know. You'll probably know more than me. I think you're right. I can't certainly remember ever bringing it back to Philip Hoch. No.
I suppose the final question then, Scott, is you've obviously prepared well. The team are up for it and ready. Do you think you can beat Hawick?
Oh, of course. If we've not got that belief, there wouldn't be any point in starting the game. So, there's a huge amount of belief within the squad, and now it's just up to us to, execute the game plan that we've been looking at. But I think, the biggest thing for us today is discipline. If we give away penalties and we let Hawick kick to the corners, and get into their game plan and where they're strong up front, it could be a tough afternoon. So it's up to the players. Discipline's key for me today, though.
Do you think it'll be a close game?
Yes. No, look, I don't think there'll be much between the squads. I think it'll come down to small chances for me, and whoever's going to convert the most amount of those small chances, win the game.
And the bonus points this season, because things are so close, are going to be absolutely critical, aren't they?
Oh, look, and you look back to last week, we probably deserved a losing bonus point, and in the grand scheme of things, you then go up to 26, the team below you's on 22, and it's 4 points rather than 3. We've only picked up two try scoring bonus points this year. Look, they're key, without a doubt. As long as it's close and we're picking up something, but for me, we're going out to win.
Scott, thank you for joining me on Borders Rugby Special. We wish you well, and the team as well, and I'm sure it'll be a good game. Scott White, the head coach of Selkirk, and now let's switch over to his opposite number, the head coach for Hawick, the visitors this afternoon in this Premiership encounter, and that of course is Matty Douglas. Matty, welcome to Borders Rugby Special.
Afternoon.
So today then it is a border derby. It's a huge one between Selkirk and Hawick. Always, a lot at stake here, but perhaps even more so today.
Yeah, I think the last couple of seasons the scoreline Hawick v Selkirk's been maybe 4 or 5 points at a maximum, and we've spoke about this week quite in depth because we feel, I don't know if it's Selkirk or the occasion or what, but we just underperform, and I think that showed on the opening day of the season where we, even though we got a draw, we felt like we had a defeat, but since then for us we've really progressed week to week, and the big focus was on us today. And coming here and trying to play the tempo and the probably game plan that has got us some big wins the last couple of weeks.
I saw you at Millennium Park 2 weeks ago against Curry, and you were very impressive, although Curry gave you a hard game, as they always do to all the teams that play there, but you came out victorious, and that was a bruising encounter, that one.
Yeah, I think the last 3 games have been bruising. We've taken on Mar, Curry, then Hawks, and now into a border derby, but as you say, Curry, they got within 4 points, but I think the big thing we're seeing this season, don't know if it's just a little bit added experience in the pack, but we're starting to see games out, and at Curry, I've saw us in the past where we probably would have folded and they would have run away with it, but we fronted up, and that's what's kind of changed with this group this season, is just a little bit more professional mentality, and that we can actually beat these so-called better teams in the league.
One of the good things for you, I think, Matty, is you've got a great competition for the starting places, and you've got back your Super Sixes players too. How do you decide then who's going to play on the field, who's going to be on the bench?
It's tough, I'll be honest. It's something we've not had at Hawick for a long time, competition for places. I've used it quite a bit the last couple of weeks, but it's really driven our training. And when you look at our hooker situation, to have Ross Graham, Matty Carrier and Fraser Rennick and Marcus Brogan in the mix as well, who's a Scotland under-18 and academy player, it's tough, and the best way that I've found is you're just honest with players, and there's no point sugarcoating it. For me, the best player takes that jersey, and they're all fighting for it, and yeah, we've got some tough decisions along the way, but it's good to have. Ross Graham missed out today with a head knock last week, and to have the ability to bring Fraser Rennick onto the bench and have Matty Carrier start, and it's depth that we didn't have last season, and it can only be a positive. But for example, Logan Gordon-Woolley's missed out today, man of the match 2 weeks ago, but the players are starting to now get into the way we're thinking, and they're disappointed, but there's a bigger picture to what we're trying to achieve here.
And the team news today then, because tell us about your Australian signing, Ethan Riley.
Yeah, look, the team, to be fair, is very consistent. Our pack's not changed in the last couple of weeks, apart from the odd injury at hooker, just because they're playing that well. We're not having to drop boys, and there's a lot of players now itching to get in. But yeah, as you say, we've brought Ethan in. He arrived on Monday across from Perth. He plays 10 or 12, so we were impressed by him at training this week, even though it was a short turnaround, and we're just keen to see him get a chance today and show what he can do. It's always a it's always a chance when you bring a player in for overseas, but he's fitted in really well this week, and he showed some touches at training that we're keen to try and see on today.
And Andrew Mitchell scored a hat-trick for you last week. He's very influential in your back line, isn't he?
Yeah, I think the last couple of weeks, the media in bits and pieces are, the pack's obviously performing and the back line's getting a tough time at the minute, that they're maybe not at the level of where the pack is, but the way, as you say, Andrew Mitchell starting to come onto a game, he had a tough time at the Knights last year, and it's taken a while to try and get him back to the form that he was before he went. And he's had some tough days, with performances, and felt like he had to, take the back line, and all the pressure was on his shoulders. But there's a lot of players in that back line that are a bit underrated, and credit to that back line last week. They really stood up against Hawks, and Graham's brought a kind of new lease of life to it as well, and they're we're excited to get out and try and stretch the Selkirk team today.
And actually Hawick have a fairly good record here at Philip Hoch, and they have a good record at Mansfield Park too, which is unusual. It should be the other way around, shouldn't it?
I said that at the start. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that is, but like last season we played here, it was snow and wind and rain, and when you look at conditions today, I think it's going to be a cracking game. I know Scott's really got that Selkirk team firing. They'll be disappointed with last week's result, but so they'll be targeting this game, and I think it's crucial that we put in a big performance, because we go into the break and then we've got another border derby. So to keep this momentum going, we're going to have to really focus on ourselves today and just play our game plan and our structure.
It's a very tough one to call, because on the one hand you might think that both teams would cancel each other out, or could we be in for a lot of tries? What's your take on it?
I don't know. To be fair, it's hard to gauge. Every time I've been previewed before Selkirk games, it's even Scott says it, there's got to be a lot of tries, but as I said, the last couple of seasons there's been 4 or 5 points in it, and that's just a border derby. But we feel today that we want to get away from that, and we don't want to come down into this border derby dogfight. We want to stick to the way we play in the right areas, and last week against Hawks we didn't get a lot of chances, but we took them, and it's got to be the same today. There's not got to be a lot of chances out there, but we're hoping that our pack sets up on a platform, and we can really push forward today and take us into the break.
The main thing is, let's hope it's a good game.
Yeah, hopefully.
Matty, thanks for joining me here on Borders Rugby Special. That's Matty Douglas, who's the head coach for Hawick, of course, and he'll be off down to join the lads on the pitch, as indeed will Scott White from Selkirk. Now, moving on, we're going to have in the commentary box a little bit later on, of course, it'll be Dale Clancy and Robin Purdie, and Dale is already with me. Dale, you heard what the two coaches had to say. What did you make of what they had to say?
Yeah, I think it was interesting listening to both coaches, and I think the beauty of them is they're both really honest. You could hear Scott White talking about the fact that he's not fully aware of what his starting back line is, and also Matty Douglas saying that in terms of his back line as well, like he thinks they're getting the credit that they're due, and I think this game is lined up to be a cracker. Having a look at the results, and this season obviously they've had a draw already. The season before that there was no more than 5 points that split the two teams, and the season before that it was only 7 points, and you had a draw in there as well. So in the last 5 encounters it's only been a score in it, and I think that is the difficulty. I spoke to Matty Carrier before the game as well, and he considers this to be their bogey team, because it's a border derby, anything can happen, but it's certainly lined up to be a really, really good game. But you can hear how much it means to both coaches, being very honest in their assessment of the game. And
you and I chatted before we came on air, and it really is difficult to call this one and decide who will end up coming out victors at the final whistle. Yeah, and probably one of the most interesting parts of the build up to the coverage, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Robin Purdie can say about the squads, because I know in terms of the form that the two teams have been on, there's been changes, there's reshuffles, and I think if you look at the squads in depth, there's areas where they can win and lose these games, and I think it is going to be such an intriguing battle, because it's wet underfoot. There's been a little bit of rain, it's a bit clatchy, so Hawick's forward dominance might it might be the thing that will win it, or alternatively it might be a little bit of flair from the backs if the Selkirk backline can really get a grunt in and really test this Hawick team. But we've got to remember the Bill McLaren Shield's up for grabs as well, and Hawick are undefeated, so it's I think there's a lot of spinning plates to this fixture, which makes it really, really intriguing. I think this is the first Premiership game you've watched this season, isn't it? But you've obviously been keeping your tabs on what's been going on. And so how do you see it going then? What would be your call?
Oh, I can't believe you've done that to me, Hugh. But I think if I'm honestly looking at it, I do quite fancy Selkirk. I think that the team that they've got out there, including the personnel on the bench, I think they've just got an ethos that they want to get their best rugby players out in the field. With Nixon, you can see one of the players that has been moving about a lot. But Hawick have got a strong squad. The thing that will be Hawick's undoing is if they can't rise to the challenge, which Matty Douglas has already alluded to. You know, it's a border derby. It's going to be a bit nitty gritty. But I do fancy Selkirk. I think there's something different about them this season. I've probably given them a bit of a hard time last season in terms of their form. They were unlucky with injury. But they've got a good brand of rugby this season. They've been lucky with injury as well, but they've got a lot of talented rugby players out there.
Are you sitting on the fence?
No, that's what I said, Selkirk, but I'm happy to be wrong. But it's I do fancy Selkirk for this one.
OK, Dale Clancy, thank you very much indeed. Dale will be in the commentary box alongside summariser Robin Purdie when the kick-off happens at 3 o'clock. But meantime, I'm joined by a special guest here up at the back of the stand at Philip Hoch, because on Thursday the news came of Lee Jones announcing his retirement at the age of just 34. Lee, of course, a Selkirk lad who came through the various age groups at Selkirk and made it onto the international stage, and through his Scotland career spanned 6 years. Some will be surprised that he managed just 10 caps in that time, but he did represent Scotland at sevens and took part in 4 Commonwealth Games, so it's been some career, but now sadly it's at an end. He's married to Commonwealth Games cycling silver medalist from 2010 Charlene, and the two are looking forward to the birth of their first child, so a new chapter opening up for both of them. Well, joining me now, I'm pleased to say, is Graham Marshall, the former Selkirk coach and also a Scottish international in his own right. Graham, welcome to Borders Rugby Special.
Thanks very much.
Nice to see you. Lee Jones is someone that everyone connected with the club here is very proud of, aren't they?
Well, he's been a fantastic ambassador for Selkirk Rugby over the years, and he was a guy that didn't make the professional ranks really quickly. He wasn't through academies at the time, and even though they did play some age group stuff. And I think the thing about Lee is he's been totally grounded. He's really a hard worker. He's had this confidence and this desire in a really quiet way over the years, and I think that's what builds up that respect. Everybody kind of respects what he's done because he's made the most of his abilities over the years.
When did you first come into contact with him?
I've known Lee since he was kind of primary school, so because he was in the same year group as my daughter. And then when he came to high school, coached him as an S2, and then coached him again with Selkirk Youth Club.
So you've actually known him for a long number of years.
Yeah.
Were you surprised that he decided to retire at the age of 34 at this stage?
I think Lee has kind of always reinvented himself. He's taken sevens contracts when he can. He's worked for 15s. He's then gone back to Premiership clubs at times to be drafted, and he's always ended up, but through his work ethic, I think, getting another contract and getting another contract. And I suppose that's the life of a professional rugby player, but it must be that there's no continuity in that, and I think he's probably, with 4 Commonwealth Games, what an achievement. And he probably thinks this is a really good time just to kind of say, when he's been at the top of his game and been playing really high standard, high quality rugby since he turned pro in 2010, 14 years is a pretty good career.
Do you think he'll stay involved with rugby? Is he coaching material, do you think?
I've heard him on the TV doing some of the summarising that he's done with the sevens and with the Super 6, and I think he comes across as a really thoughtful, knowledgeable guy, and I think he's got potential there, because I think some of his comments are really well thought out. Yeah.
As I said in my introduction, perhaps some people will be surprised that he only managed 10 caps for Scotland. It's such a fantastic player that you've been describing and talking about. Should he have achieved more in the international stage?
I think sometimes that's down to a bit of good fortune or bad fortune. I think his injury against Ireland that year didn't help him, and that put him out for a while, and then other people come in and play well, and then you've got to work your way back. And he was a scrum half as a schoolboy and a youth player, and he played under 18. He didn't get the A team, he got under 18Bs as a scrum half. But then the transition to winger was probably because we had a good scrum half down here, and people don't kind of remember he had 4 years of amateur rugby. He didn't turn pro till he was 22, So he had all that time kind of grafting to make himself better. He committed totally to his strength and conditioning and his fitness, and I think that work ethic has served him well. And I'm pretty sure that Lee has maximised his potential over the year. I think if it's doable, he's tried to do it.
Graham, I can't resist asking you about this afternoon's match between Selkirk and Hawick. What's your take on that?
I think it'll be a really close game. I think Selkirk had a difficult performance last week. We struggled a bit against Curry. Curry well deserved their win, and Hawick are obviously on a high, and you see their team sheet as a pretty strong Hawick team. But hopefully we're at home and we give a good performance, and I think it's despite what your summariser says, I think Hawick are probably favourites today. But Selkirk, hopefully we can give them a good game here and see what we can get out of it.
Graham Marshall, thank you for joining me this afternoon. Hope it is a good game and nice to see you. And thanks for talking to us about Lee Jones this afternoon. And we wish him well in his retirement. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Graham Marshall there, who of course is a former Selkirk coach and also a Scottish international as well. And Dale, you knew Lee Jones, no doubt you played against him, but you probably didn't get anywhere near him on the park.
Well, I've probably got to echo that. I do remember, Lee Jones is such a humble guy, and I think everything that Graham Marshall just said is pretty accurate. He really emphasised the best parts of his game with hard work and dedication. He's obviously a good rugby player, but he had to work hard to make himself even better. And I think the amateur point's quite a big point. He did spend 4 years playing. He's actually only a year older than me. And I remember playing across on the fields, just across the road here at Philip Hawke. And that was, at the time, he was a scrum half. And he tore us apart. We didn't have the best youth team at the time at Peebles, but he was just, you could tell then he was just a bit different. He was a cut above the players that were there. But then that's sometimes the difficulty when you're a young player, that you get knocked down and move position. He said they had a good scrum half there, and sometimes players can get a little bit disillusioned. But Selkirk have nurtured him well. They've looked after him. He's also looked after Selkirk, and I think that's what club rugby's all about. They've allowed him a platform to try and get the best of his ability. Opportunities in life that he probably would never have imagined when he was skinning me over in that field over there. But I think that's what club rugby is all about, and he's worked really, really hard. You can see his accolades that he's got when he's putting his post on social media. He's a really decorated rugby player, and certainly all the things that are going to come next for him, I wish him all the best.
Dale, thank you very much indeed for the moment. Dale Clancy. After the break, we're going to take a look at the other Borders games going on this afternoon, but we must say well done to Peebles on their win last night to put them back at the top of National 2 table with a 52 points to 15 win at Kirkcaldy. So well done to the men from the Guides. 52-15 winners last night against Kirkcaldy. Back in just a couple of minutes' time from now.
Hello, this is George Ingles here, and I'm thrilled that my songs are now available on 2 albums, Anthology and Lockdown Blues.
Late in the evening, she's wondering what clothes to wear.
Both available on iTunes to download and stream.
I am the train, been gone since 69.
George Ingles Anthology and Lockdown Blues. Check them out now on iTunes and other digital sites.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 Years On, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8 DVD box set, The Complete Borders Railway, is available now.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Learning Manager for Sports and Outdoor Activities at Borders College. Have you ever considered turning your passion for sport into a rewarding career? If so, then why not get in touch at borderscollege.ac.uk/sport.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com. Brave the storm.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the other matches involving Borders sides being played today. And yesterday, Stuart Cameron sat down with Robin Purdie to go over them.
Last week everyone was delighted with the result. We knew that it would be a challenge, and we knew that if we were close going into the final quarter we had a chance. We didn't plan on it being quite that close and down to the last kick of the game. But credit to the lads. For 60 minutes they were under pressure but defended with passion, defended for the shirt and defended for each other. It was good to watch, and it's a credit to them. This week, obviously we know what a good outfit this Curry team is right across the park, whether it's forward play or back split. You know, they're a well drilled, well organised, dynamic, bit fast team. So again another challenge, but one that we're ready for. I feel like we're heading in the right direction, and we're getting stronger each week. We can definitely take our physicality to them. Last week our physicality won the game, and it has helped us right through the season so far. This week, unfortunately, Harry Meadows is out. He got injured last week. He's having a hard time. Hopefully, moving forward, we'll get some game time out of him, because he's definitely a massive asset. I don't actually have a team for you just yet, because we do have a few late fitness tests to do. Gary Young had a bit of a hamstring tweak last week, so waiting on a fitness test on him. Callum Young as well had a bit of an injury coming out of the GHA game, so just sort of a late fitness test on him. And then another one, Dan Wardrop, who's coming back from a hand injury. So all three are obviously massive contributes. Gary being top of the tackle stats last week, so obviously we will hopefully get him on the park. The front row trio of Grant Paxton, Finlay Scott and Paulo Ferreira will be starting. All three are a massive asset and playing out the skin at the moment. Grant especially is having on great form, as well as Finlay with his boot. And then Paulo just loves scoring tries. Obviously Clark Skeldon, he'll be skippering the team from the second row, and he'll be partnered by John Story, who again had another good game last week. Back row yet to be decided just yet, following fitness tests. Aidan Bambrick will be starting at 9, along with Jai McGough at 10. Again, both massive contributions. Aidan coming into some real form and finding and hitting his straps. And Jai McGough again defended outstandingly and got that backline moving. Ricardo Ferreira will probably be starting at 12 alongside Rory Marshall, with Mason Cullen and Shearer Gibb on the wings. Gregor Young and Lewis Young both available. Again, another fitness test on Lewis, a bit of a hamstring issue, but we'll wait and see later tonight.
Okay, so that's the words of Andrew Brown, the head coach of Jed Forest. Now, you're a Jed player from another era, admittedly.
A bygone era, yeah.
A bygone era. Halfway point in the Premiership, you'll be pretty impressed, no doubt, the fact that Jed are where they are, but also the fact that Andrew's come in and done a job.
Yeah, I think him and Mark Lee have come in and done a great job, in all honesty. At the start of the season, there was rumours of not that many boys training and all the rest of it, snippets that you'd hear. Now, I think Jed have done great. You know, they've won, 3 out of 8, but they've put a lot of points on a good few teams. Let's be honest, that was a massive win again. And, you know, what a pleasure it was to be at the late drama. What a massive win that was against Mar, and a bonus point no less. You know, you look at the table now, another result, massive result for Jed last weekend was at Story Hill, where Musselburgh had a big lead in the, you know, GHA came back to peg them back. That was a massive win for Jed. Again, looking forward at the fixtures, if Jed can get something from Curry, then Jed do look to have a fairly difficult, you know, Curry's a difficult fixture in itself, but the 5 fixtures thereafter do look reasonably tricky. But Jed have got points in the bag, and I think that in 5 games' time maybe, I think it's December the 10th, Musselburgh away for Jed. Mark that in your calendar, Jed fans, because if you win that game, you're safe. You might be safe by then anyway, but win that game and you're home and host.
Because it is important. I mean, looking back at last season, of course, Aberdeen went down with 19 points. Now, obviously, you'll probably need a few more than that to actually survive, but at least, and of course with Heriots, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, Heriots getting that win at Edinburgh Accies, which was phenomenal last week, but it shows that, they're going to get boys back from the Super 6 now, and Heriots are going to be a different animal.
Yeah, that was, in as much as Musselburgh result was massive for Jed, that Heriot result didn't go Jed's way. That looked an absolute home. It looked the home banker of the day, to be honest. That Rayburn placed there for Accies, and Heriots must have done a great job there, and no mistake. But yeah, I just think Jed have got enough. They've put enough points on enough teams, and Musselburgh appear to be struggling. They should have won that game with the start that they had, and obviously they didn't. I can't see that doing wonders for their morale, in all honesty. But there's one team going down from this division, and Jed have done great, really great in my opinion, to find themselves in the position that they're in, just about within touching distance of being safe, and we've not quite played half the games yet.
And we've seen them, of course, be away from home, scoring a lot of tries, bonus point tries at GHA, for instance, and coming out the wrong end of the scoreline. But they do have this great home record at Riverside Park. 3 wins on the bounce now, going into a 4th. Curry, going to be a very tricky game, as you say, but if they get a good start, because Curry have been really bad starters, and Jed have been good finishers, so we might find that we get a situation where there's not many points in the first half, and then all hell breaks loose in the second.
Yeah, and Jed can score tries, whether it's the young twins and young Mason Cullen in the backs doing their thing, or whether it's Paulo Ferreira rumbling over for 10, 11 tries a season from 2 yards a time. Jed can score tries, and when you can score tries, when you've got that in your locker, there's always the chance of a 4-try bonus. And equally, if you're not going to win a game, there's always the chance, if you can score tries, of a losing bonus. It seems straightforward to say, but that is the case, so there's a point there, there's 2 points here, even in losing games. Those all tot up, absolutely, they tot up in a division whereby only one team's going to go down.
And of course, I've heard through the grapevine, it's not been confirmed, but Kieran Clark will be joining Jed Forest from the Super 6 draft. And again, that's going to make a bit of an impact. What a backline. Have Kieran Clark in that backline as well. Sounds pretty mouth-watering, if indeed it is true.
Yeah, that's news to me, but I think the way drafts work, there are the ones that will come and they'll do a job and they'll put their all into it, and there's players that get affiliated to clubs and they won't be seen. So I think if Jed can get anybody from Super 6 that comes and does a shift, then that can only be a good thing, and Kieran Clark's a good player. Well, that game kicks off at 3 o'clock. Andrew Fleming will be covering that one for us. And the other games, of course, that we've kind of mentioned, GHA against Edinburgh Accies, that's a 1 o'clock kick-off. The rest are at 3. Heriots Blues versus Hawks. We could see Hawks starting to slide down the table in recent weeks and Heriots improving. So that at Golden Acre, you would say, could well be another Heriots win. And then Musselburgh against Mar, which, again, you have to say, Mar should be favourites to win that. Yeah, I can see Mar winning there, to be honest. I can see them picking up a bonus point without Musselburgh getting too much. I was pretty impressed by Mar, to be honest, last week at Jed. They pretty much had that game in the bag. They'll be disappointed to go away from Jed with just the 2 bonus points. They are missing a fair few frontliners, but on their day they can still compete with anybody. They put Curry to the sword, no less. So yeah, I would imagine Mar will be too strong for Musselburgh there, which again should help Jed. The other game, Heriots v Glasgow Hawks, you're absolutely right. Heriots, I can see now starting to climb the table. If they do a job on Glasgow Hawks on Saturday, that will certainly help Selkirk's cause. And
GHA against Edinburgh Accies, very intriguing.
Yeah, it is. Prior to last weekend, I would have said that might be a sort of 10-15 point win for the Accies, but going through there, based on Accies losing at home at Heriots last week, that's anybody's game, and Accies are going to need to keep winning games and picking up points to just maintain that top 4 position, because like I say, I can see Mar coming, I can't see Mar getting a home semi-final, but I can still see Mar finishing top 4.
Well, let's have a quick look at the table then before we move on to National 1. Hawick at the top, 34, Edinburgh Accies 32, Curry 32, so Edinburgh Accies only there on points difference, Selkirk 25, Hawks 22, Jed 18, Mar 17, GHA 17, Heriots Blues 12 and Musselburgh 5. So that's the state of play at the moment. Let's go into National 1 and another big derby derby, and let's set it up for you. Melrose v Kelso. Melrose unbeaten at home all season. Kelso top of the table, unbeaten in all games so far. We're going to hear first from Melrose head coach Bert Grigg, then the thoughts of Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan.
Looking forward to hosting Kelso at the Green Yards this Saturday. Obviously they've started off the season pretty well, to say the least. They're really effective at what they do. Murray Hasty puts them into some good places, and they're pretty clinical once they get within 10 metres of the try line. But for us, I think we've hit a bit of a vein of form at the minute. Proved last week up at Biggar that we can combat that sort of physical style. The two teams play a very similar way, and it's an opportunity for us to sort of back it up and prove that we can win games like that, especially at home as well. Keep that undefeated record at home going this season. So yeah, squad's boosted this week. A few returning players. Cam Cruikshanks is available again this week, and Jack Dobie's back from his travelling in New Zealand, so brings a real bit of experience back into that front row, as well as Canadian Mitch Richardson returning from injury. He'll make his first appearance since his injury with the Southern Knights. So yeah, look, exciting game on Saturday. I think we're just really focusing on ourselves this week, making sure that we're nailing what we're good at, and making sure we're coming out all firing, taking on Kelso this Saturday.
Up the Green Yards on Saturday for a big game again against an informed Melrose team. I think they're 4 on the bounce at the moment, and they're also unbeaten at home. They've racked up some pretty good scores at home. I think they really enjoy the 3G surface at home. They just keep scoring loads of tries, and that's something that we're going to have to be on our game with. We're going to have to defend well up there if we want to get anything out of the match. And I know Melrose particularly take the border derbies pretty serious, as everybody does, but they usually field a pretty strong team against Kelso, and I suppose that's a good thing for us. A bit of a mark of respect for ourselves these days. At the last season, is certainly we came up against pretty strong Melrose teams, and we're expecting the same this week. The 3G surface is a bit of an issue for us. We've got a couple of forced changes due to injuries that people have sustained on them before, or they're not comfortable on the surface. So what that does is it opens up the door for a couple of guys that are knocking on the door and to get in the team. So they're going to get a run and a chance, an opportunity. So young Murray Woodcock comes in the second row. He's only 18, and Murray's been doing well. He scored a hat-trick last week for the second team, so that process is working well. So he comes in for Keith McNeil. Kevin Dryden returns to the team for Ferg Cumming on the bench. Again, Kev played well for the seconds last week. Greg Punton comes back in for Mark Wilson. Mark just needs a bit of game time. He's not had much game time the last couple of weeks. He's been on the bench himself, so we give Mark a bit of chance to get a run out as well for the seconds. So the process is working pretty well that way for us, and we just got to trust in the guys that are there and the effort they're putting in. So yeah, we go again. This Melrose team's pretty handy. I mean, they're littered with players that have played Super 6 level. I know with Super 6 finishing, some of the players have returned. Guys like David Colvin, Duke Crawford, and various others. And I mean, there's numerous of them played a good level. Stu Hutchison, Bruce Colvin, Tam Brown, Will. And these guys have all played Super 6 to some degree or for long periods of time, and that's got to hold Melrose in good stead. And that's something we've maybe really not got a lot of, but we have got experienced players. So yeah, it's gonna match up pretty well, I think, and we're fully aware of how good this Melrose team is, and I think Melrose just go out the game slight favourites given their home form and the type of personnel they can call upon for these fixtures. So we'll see how it goes. Let the best team win.
Very interesting comments from Neil there. Playing some mind games, do you think? 3G pitch and Melrose favourites?
Possibly. It wasn't too long since Neil was telling us about obtaining enough points to be safe. I think that ship has sailed, clearly. Yep. So yeah, he clearly doesn't like a favourites tag, Neil, and quite right. In his role as director of rugby, he has to do and has to say what he feels best for Kelso and gives Kelso the best opportunity to win rugby matches. And if that puts favourites tags in the head of the opposition, then so be it. I think he's possibly onto something. I think this is difficult to call. It's not a foregone conclusion simply because Kelso are top of the table, put it that way.
And what about the 3G pitch, though? Players dropping out because they don't like playing on it?
Yeah.
Unless I heard that wrong, that's what he said, isn't it?
Aye, I mean, one way or another, if one of those players is Keith McNeil, then that's a blow, because he's a big lump, and in my opinion he forms a really good second row partnership with the other Keith Melbourne. So yeah, that interesting comments from Neil, and that's what you get from Neil. And yeah, it really is a mouth-watering game.
It is, because it's probably the strongest Melrose side to date this season, and so much riding on this as well, particularly for Melrose, because a win for them shows they really are serious contenders for the title. I mean, already they're up to the same points as Gala, because Gala have had a couple of losses.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there, Stuart. It's a cup final for Melrose, and I keep harking back. I'm like a broken record every week about the fact that this division is so exciting, in my opinion, because there's only one team goes up. Now, Melrose are 7 points behind Kelso. Kelso not lost the game this season, 7 from 7. If Melrose win this, they're in a title race, absolutely. If Melrose lose, that'll be 3 losses now. I can't see them going up with 3 losses and still a chunk of the season to play. I think it'll play massively into Kelso's chances of going up. If Kelso, I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, obviously, but as well as Kelso enhancing their own chances, if they win, that will see another rival of theirs, i.e. Melrose, dropping out of promotion contention, and that's just the way it is with one team going up. And, you know, there'll be people at the Greenyards who will thank me for saying that, but, you know, it's a cup final for Melrose, absolutely.
Okay, well, we'll have a camera at that one as well, with you and Welsh covering the game for us, and that is too hard to call in my book as well, and I can't wait to find out what happens. Gala, though, they're going to be visiting the capital to take on Stuart's Melville, who are 11th in the table, and surely we're going to see Gala back to winning ways after 2 narrow defeats. Here's what head coach Stuart Johnson had to say.
Up to Stu Mel on Saturday for what's a must-win game for us after 2 defeats. We go up there with a very settled squad actually from Saturday. The only person dropping out through injury is Ben Gill, with Craig Dodds coming into the starting team in the centre, and Gregor Collins moves onto the bench. Obviously Gregor's been in the squad once before up at Biggar, and he's been impressing with our second squad, so Gregor gets another opportunity. Settled squad, but a must-win game for us if we want to keep ourselves in contention with Kelso, Melrose and Ayr at the top in that one.
2 games they've lost, but 2 games they should have won. Let's be honest, but because they lost, they dropped 8 points and they're now in 3rd place, and all of a sudden Ayr come out and snatch 2nd place.
Yeah, and Stuart there used the phrase must win. It is must win, and for the exact same reasons it's must win for Melrose. If they're going to stay on Kelso's coattails in this particular division, then it's absolutely a must win, and I think they will win, and I think they'll get a bonus point. Stirling, I think, at home after that for Gala. I'd fancy again 5 points from that, but then it's Ayr away and then it's Melrose away. So do Gala need 10 points from the next 2 games, as much as I don't want to heap pressure on them in this league, as I keep referring to? Yes, they potentially do, and they possibly now need to go unbeaten, Gala.
And they need that confidence back. I think any team that loses to, no matter how narrow the loss was, they need to get back on the wagon and say, look, you know, we can score tries, and no better chance than at Stuart's Melville, based on what Stuart's Melville have done so far, which hasn't been a great deal. So for their own confidence boost, get the 5 points.
Absolutely, and it's one of the oldest cliches in the book. You don't become a bad team overnight, and Gala are certainly not a bad team. And yeah, Gala absolutely have got the personnel, and they've got the management people as well to turn round what is at the moment a mini blip. But there's no reason that Gala can't take 10 points from the next 2 games and can't win at Ayr and can't win at Melrose, and then they're right back where they need to be.
And as I say, they could so easily be top of the table going into this game.
That's it. That's the fine margins of this league. One up, brilliant.
Just like last year, it's the gift that keeps giving.
It is. It literally is. It's the cup finals every week gift that keeps giving.
Other games in National 1, Aberdeen Grammar versus Dundee, so the derby, as near as a derby you can get up there. And Aberdeen Grammar, of course, finally got their first win of the season against Watsonians. Ayr against GHK, which should be a home win. Stirling County versus Highland, and Watsonians against Biggar. What about them?
There's 2 divisions formed, if you like, within this division. There's the top 5 from Highland up have kind of broken away from the pack, if you like, and that pack doesn't include Biggar, which they'll be disappointed about, I would have thought. Biggar, I'd fancy them to win this weekend. It was good to see Aberdeen win. That'll be quite an interesting game now that Aberdeen have chalked up a victory. But there's the teams at the top here that are contributing to the exciting nature of this league, and there's kind of the others. Now, that's not to say that the other teams won't have a say in proceedings, because somebody somewhere will, in the upper echelons, will potentially drop points to a Dundee or a big, Biggar can still definitely have a big say in who's actually going to win this league.
Let's have a look at that table then. So Kelso at the top, 33, Ayr 28, Gala 26, Melrose 26, Highland 23, and then, as you say, big gap. And how tight is it in the bottom half? Listen to this: Dundee 14, Biggar 14, Stirling 13, GHK 12, Watsonians 11. That is exciting. And then you've got Stumel with 6 and Aberdeen at 6 at the bottom. And remember, of course, 3 will go down.
Yes, it's going to be a dogfight at the other end of the table. We've maybe paid more attention to the upper echelons because that's where the border teams in that division find themselves. But yeah, it's exciting at the bottom as well, absolutely. There's some big names, some historic clubs in Scottish rugby that could find themselves in the third tier next season.
Well, International 2, Berwick are away as well at Hamilton, bottom club, and if they're going to pick up away wins, this is the kind of match they need to win. Here's head coach Colin Young.
This weekend, Berwick travel to Hamilton. After back-to-back wins, we were able to name an unchanged team for the first time this season. Although Hamilton are bottom of the league, they had a narrow defeat last weekend, so we won't be taking anything for granted. Discipline will have to be key on the road. Last weekend, man of the match James Thompson getting 2 tries was exceptionally good, but I thought also in the front row, Darren Goodfellow and Ryan Wilson ran James very close.
Colin Young, who is the head coach of Berwick. An away win there, do you think?
Yeah, I'm taking an away win on my card there, Stuart, and that will take Berwick, if it comes to fruition, that'll take Berwick to 24 points. And Berwick and Kirkcaldy are 4 from 6, so they've played a game less than some of the teams. And like the division above, there's a wee bit of a split happening between maybe the top 7 and the bottom 5, and Berwick will be keen to maintain their position in that top 7 and push on from there. But I think Berwick have done brilliantly. 4 wins from 6 games, having been promoted last season. I think that's a great start, and I think they rightly should be delighted.
Hamilton, very different sort of animal now. Look at last week's result at Preston Lodge, who, of course, let's not forget, beat Peebles convincingly. They only lost by 3 points.
Yeah, there has been some strange results in the division. It looked early in the piece that Kirkcaldy and Preston Lodge could be the teams to beat, but definitely evidence there to suggest that probably the top 7 teams can beat each other. And as you say, Hamilton, even rooted at the bottom, came pretty close last weekend, so they are obviously improving. And again, like the division above, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that division. It's anybody's.
Duns are away to Ross High in the National Shield competition, while in the East Bowl it's a local derby for Hawick Quins and Gala YM. Now, Quins are going to start favourites for this one as they're unbeaten after a brilliant win at Edinburgh Northern last week, taking Edinburgh Northern's unbeaten record 5 from 5 and well and truly putting it in the bin with a big result by about 40 points clear, I think they were. But Gala YM have also performed well on their day, and they're not going to be a pushover. Unfortunately, we can't hear from Hawick Quins, but we can hear from Gala YM coach Stuart Walker.
We've had a real focus on the bowl competition throughout the season, and we're really looking forward to Saturday against Hawick Quins. We've been keeping an eye on their results, and we know that they've been really strong on certain weeks and had some good results, so we know it's going to be a tough task. We had a bit of a disappointing performance in our last league game away to Liberton. But training's been great since then. We've bounced back, and we've got a few boys coming back from injury who'll make a real impact. Notably, Alex Selkirk's coming back into the squad. Shane Kellett as well is going to be fit to play this weekend, so that's a real bonus. But had big numbers down at training and a full squad for Saturday. Like I say, we've been looking forward to these games, and we really want to give our best shot on Saturday against the Quins. And yeah, looking forward to it.
Should be a good game, that one. Looking forward to that as well. Hawick Harlequins are playing Gala YM for a place in the final of the East Bowl. Well, finally on the local front, Kelso ladies visit Liberton ladies on Sunday, still unbeaten this season. And here's Kelso captain Donna Borthwick.
This week, Kelso ladies take on Liberton away. Last week we were meant to play them at home, but they couldn't fulfil a team, so we're looking forward to going up there this week and having a really good game with them. We did play alongside them in the Cup games. We duelled with them because they didn't have enough numbers, and neither did we, so we kind of know what they've got to offer, but they've had a lot of new players recently as well, the same as us, so we're really looking forward to seeing what they have to offer. It'll be quite a tough, fast match, we think, but we've got a lot of good backs in playing for us this weekend. We've got Louise Halliday at 10, who is really good off the boot and has really good hands. We've got a really good partnership, Katie McLaren and Jess. Katie's playing amazing at outside centre. She used to play 10 for us, but now she plays 13 and she's having a really good season so far. Her boot's been brilliant and her running some great lines as well. Our forward pack's looking really good as well. We've got our usual forwards playing that we have every week, but they're ready to go after a week of rest, and we're hoping that we're going to come away with another win this weekend.
Lots of new girls at the club, and this can only be good for the team as well. Also very encouraging for other clubs in the area. Hopefully we'll see them in the league soon.
Yeah, it's definitely, women's rugby. It's on the up, absolutely, and you're right. Kelso can be the benchmark for that in this region, and others will hopefully follow suit, and the numbers will be there, hopefully.
Because everyone wants a derby, don't they, of some sort?
That's it. Whether it's Selkirk v
Gala Vixens or Melrose Ladies or whatever.
Our derbies are what we want to see in and around the Borders.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio with Hugh Brown.
A comprehensive preview of games involving Borders teams today there, but we're here at Philip Hawke this afternoon for the Premiership match between 4th place Selkirk and league leaders Hawick, which kicks off in just under 5 minutes time at 3 o'clock. But some games have already kicked off, early kick-offs. Let me give you some scores for you. In the Premiership of full time, it finished GHA 25, Edinburgh Accies 34, so second place Accies get a win this afternoon against GHA away from home. In National League Division 1, another full-time score, it's finished Aberdeen 21, Dundee 20. Well, what a win for Aberdeen that is. Aberdeen in 12th place up against 6th place Dundee, and Aberdeen getting a home win this afternoon by that single point. In National League Division 1, full-time score is Stirling County 34, Highland 13. Stirling County 34, Highland 13. And another game that's already underway in National 2, latest score is Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34. Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34. But now let's head to our commentary team here at the back of the stand at Philip Hawke. Robin Purdie will be our summariser, and Dale Clancy is our commentator. Dale, we've already mentioned it's going to be a cracking border derby, difficult one to call. Teams are just about ready to come out onto the pitch, and so I'll hand over to you for this afternoon's match. It is Selkirk against Hawick with Robin Purdie and Dale Clancy.
Yeah, good afternoon to everyone just joining us, and welcome along to more Tennent's Premiership action brought to you live and uninterrupted here on Borders Rugby Radio. And what a game we have in store at Philip Hawke as Selkirk do welcome Hawick. They're the top two sides and the two border sides in the country at the moment, and they go toe to toe after a draw in the opening game of the season back in August when it finished 20 points all. And since then, Selkirk have continued to address the issues that plagued them last season and find themselves in the playoff places at the turn in the league, whereas Hawick have gone on to record 7 victories on the bounce, and after some impressive results on the road, they will not want to be giving up their zero against their bitter rivals or loosen their grip on the Bill McLaren shield. It is a battle of the Bannocks and the Balls, and alongside me with some sweet analysis we've got Robin Purdie. So Robin, this is a difficult game to call, isn't it? At the beginning of the season, Selkirk, after last year, plagued by injury. Hawick 7 victories on the bounce, but it's difficult conditions, and Selkirk are in a bit of form.
Good afternoon, Dale. Yes, they are indeed, and if you'd said to me pre-season that we'd get to this point and it would be a game between Selkirk and Hawick and it would be difficult to call, I probably would have disagreed, but you're absolutely right. Selkirk have been a revelation this season, and it's very difficult to call. I think the predictors at the offside line have taken a Selkirk home win today. I personally think it'll come down to a forward battle. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it pans out at number 8, Monroe Jobs, Scotland under-18s, fantastic young player. He goes up against who for me, is the best player, never mind the best number 8, the best player in the division, that being Jay Linton. So yeah, that could go a long way to determining what the outcome is here this afternoon.
Well, we can get a better look at the teams now just before they run onto the pitch. A kick-off a few minutes away. But it's been common for Scott White this season to reshuffle the deck slightly, and he's trying to get his best players out on the pitch, and that means that due to the absence of the injured Grant Sooty, who got injured against Curry last week, and the departure of Ryan Godsmart back to Belgium, recent arrival Craig Jackson starts at inside centre alongside Welsh, which is perhaps the biggest news in the Sooters lineup. They start with Matt Reid at fullback. They've got Lachlan Ferguson and Ryan Cottrell on the wings, and Jackson and Welsh in at the centre. Aaron McComb will lead the side, or co-lead the side, alongside Ross Nixon at standoff, who moves from the back row. In the front row we've got Petty, Bett and Shavagjak, James Head and Cochrane in the middle row, and then McComb, McClymont and Job in the back row, and you can hear the applause from the visiting spectators as Hawick take the field. And the visitors have also been making some changes, with 4 players from the opening game of the season not even making the squad today. The depth at hooker is a position that Hawick are definitely blessed in at the moment, and a head knock to Ross Graham means that Captain Carrier returns to lead the side, and Fraser Rennick returns from Super 6 duty with Southern Knights to earn a spot on the bench. Matty Douglas believes he has a team to continue to lead the rest at the summit of Scottish Rugby, and tasked with that job from the off are Kirk Ford at fullback. We've got Ferguson and McKean on the wings, Huggan and Mitchell in at centre, with Patterson and Brunton the half-back parent. Sean Muir and Nicky Little are the props, with Captain Carrier at hooker. We've got Redpath and Fairbairn in the middle row, with Sutherland, Rennick and Jay Linton in the back row for Hawick, and they're 2 very strong sides. And before we can look at the bench, I think the bench is going to be really important. But who stands out for you in terms of the starting lineups, Robin?
I think Craig Jackson's the obvious one for Selkirk. It's his first outing in the Navy jersey today, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He's not played a massive amount of rugby since what was an absolutely horrendous injury, let's be honest, for the Southern Knights. He's done really well just to be back playing any sort of rugby at any level whatsoever. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. The middle row, there's a couple of ex-Southern Knights in there. James Head goes up against his old club mate at the Knights, Dalton Redpath. They're a couple of hardy characters, so that could be fairly explosive. And yeah, as I say, for Hawick, Jay Linton for me, one of the key men, along with probably Kirk Ford at 15. Hawick, interesting player. The new arrival Ethan Riley, the Australian on the bench, his highlight reel looks quite something. So yeah, if he gets a bit of time this afternoon, then it will be interesting to see how he goes as well.
Yeah, the squads are going to be vitally important as Selkirk can now take the field in their almost entirely navy top against the Green Machine from Mansfield Park, and the referee just about to get proceedings underway. And it's going to be the scrum half, Aaron McComb, right boot to the ball and kicks it downfield. Selkirk going from right to left, they're playing towards the town, and it's a huge hit to start off as Hawick gathered the ball just outside of their 22, and it was met well with some really good Selkirk aggression straight from the kick-off, and a little bit of afters round the ruck as well, as Patterson box kicks downfield, but it's gone out in the full, and that's a positive start from Selkirk. They've made a good bit of territory, certainly out with aggression in defence, and forcing the error there from Hawick.
Yeah, young Patterson there, as you say, kicking it out on the full. I was impressed by him at the start of the season before he got injured. He's still aged to play under 18s rugby, so yeah, big game for him this morning. Early error, but I don't think that'll bother him too much. But yeah, it's a good early attacking platform for Selkirk here.
James Bett throws the ball into the line out, and it's not a clean one. It's slipped through the hands there, and it's ended up back in a Hawick side, and Patterson goes for another box kick, and there's a little bit of a deliberation here between the assistant referee and the referee, but I think he's called a knock-on from Selkirk, so it'll be a put into the scrum for Hawick, and this will be an early sighter for both packs because they're both really big packs, but it'll be an early sighter for Hawick to see if they can get the upper hand on the hosts.
Yeah, 4 tough old props in there. Petty and Svadrak have been going really well for Selkirk against the hugely experienced Sean Muir and Little, so yeah, always good to see the first time the front rows come together, and yeah, as you say, an early sighter.
It's just on the fringes of the 22 in the Hawick half, and just straddling the 15 metre line over on the far side opposite the stand, and it's Patterson to roll the ball in, and he's managed to get that into a scrum which has been driven sideways, and there's no quarter given in there up front as Selkirk look to try and muscle their way, but the penalty has gone the way of Hawick, and certainly it looks like it's going to be a competitive area of this game. The forwards, it's something you alluded to before in terms of you feel it's going to be a forward battle, but it looks pretty nip and tuck up front.
Yeah, if anything, I thought Selkirk got a bit of a shunt on there, and I think even though they coughed up the penalty, they'll be pretty pleased with that outcome, that first scrum?
Ford kicks downfield from the penalty, and it's still 0-0 here. We've had 3 minutes gone at Philip Hawke in Tennent's Premiership action here on Borders Rugby Radio. And a little reminder that the fact that this was a draw in the opening game of the season on the 22nd of August, it was 20 points all. And the other 4 games that have been played over the last few seasons, obviously the one hampered by COVID, but either side of that, only 7 points have only separated these two teams. So this is going to be a very tight battle between these two squads as Matty Carrier hits his target from his first line out on the 10 metre line inside the Hawick half, still as the forwards look to try and pump the legs and get a little bit of head of steam up front, but it's been driven back with some good work in the pack from Selkirk. It's a scrappy ball coming back there on a Hawick side, and the referee is keeping a close eye on this, but it is in the hands of Patterson now. He's found Brunton, who's got a bit of field to play with, kicks it cross field. And it's a job here for Reid to scamper back into his own 22. He's got an acute angle to try and clear from, but looks to try and take on his man and does really well. Passes it back in field to Cottrell, who's got some space to run. He's got McClymondt in support, but goes to kick ahead. He's been nudged out of the field of play by Ford, and even over the Hordens as well. Great athleticism from Cottrell, but an early sighter there from Selkirk, looking to attack with intent through Reid and also Ryan Cottrell.
Yeah, good play by Reid, composed play, and Cottrell got a wee bit of space to work in there, and some of the faithful here in this stand thought there was a nudge on Cottrell there by Kirkford, but I think Kirkford stood his ground there, as he's probably entitled to do. Yeah,
it's like two Rizzler papers coming together. Not the biggest guys out in the field, but they were going at some tilt, but it was a good attacking attempt from Cottrell. He did find a bit of space. I wonder whether he was maybe questioned to keep that in hand. His Carrier from the line out hits his target, but it's bobbled off a head, and now it's in the hands of James Bett, who looks to just take the attack towards Hawick, up into the Hawick 22 now. And good breakaway there from the hooker. Now it's McClymondt who's trying to wrong foot the defence and almost gets accused of crossing from the visiting spectators, but he does well to just garner himself. Now into the hands of Jackson, who gets clattered for his worries there as he tries to stab the ball behind, but Jay Linton put in a big hit. It's bubbled into a Hawick hand. They kick clear, relieve the pressure, and Selkirk from an attacking position perhaps cough up possession a bit cheaply there.
Yeah, it was an interesting tactic from Jackson, the grabber through, but it was very well fielded by Hawick, and they've sent that fully 50-55 metres downfield for this, to the Selkirk 20, the Selkirk 10 metre line. So yeah, first bit of real territory for Hawick here.
Yeah, they've had a few throw-ins to the line out. Matty Carrier's been able to hit them, but it's going to be a throw-in to Selkirk on this occasion. A line out that James Bett was not able to find earlier on, but he throws it into this line out. It's been flat back on their side, but I think the referee has given a free kick to Hawick for, I wonder if that's for a dummy throw.
Yeah, I think you're right, the old dummy throw there. Certainly looked it from here anyway.
That's going to be an interesting decision to see what Hawick do, because they're on the 10 metre line, and I thought, yep, Matty Carrier, if I know him as well as I do, he'll be certainly wanting to get his buddies in close and try and test this scrum, because this is a great attacking opportunity, because your back three, your defensive line, they've got to cover the field, but they're too far away from their line to just rely on a flat defensive line here.
Yeah, it's a good, really good attacking platform for Hawick this, if they can get secure ball at the scrum. Be interesting to see what happens. Obviously Andrew Mitchell's in that Hawick midfield, fresh off a hat-trick last week. He's a danger man absolutely for them, so here we go.
It's put into the scrum there. Brunton now, he's linking up with Huggin, who tries to feed Mitchell, who manages just to barge his way over the 10 metre line. So a couple of hard yards earned there. Now Jay Linton, a player who Robin Purdie alluded to earlier on, he's going to be vitally important. And now Nicky Little looking to try and keep the tempo in this attacking phase going. And again, Jay Linton just offering himself up round the fringes. It's a great effort from the Hawick forwards to steal about 10 metres, but it's been counter-rucked there. James Bett gets over as Patterson has to do his janitorial duties and sweep up. And he's been met with some intent Selkirk defence, but Matty Carrier now finds a gap and he steals an extra 10 metres and charges his way towards the 22. And Hawick certainly got their tails up now, passed on to Redpath from Muir. He's been met well in defence by Selkirk, and it's now into the hands of Aaron McComb, who kicks downfield and tries to turn the tide, but Kirk Ford is back there defending well. He's been met with some defence as he scampers his way up towards the 10 metre line, and the cavalry does eventually arrive for Hawick. Back inside their own half now through Patterson, who's just sizing up his options as he tries to steady the ship, and Nicky Little now looking to try and take the ball forward, but he's been met with another great defensive effort there from Shafagjak. He does really well just to drive them back. I think the Selkirk defence has been very impressive in these early stages. Brunton now in the pocket, sizing up his options, looks either way. It's covered well. for Selkirk, and it's Lachlan Ferguson who managed to cover the field, kicks it downfield straight into the hands of Hawick yet again, who return it. Aaron McComb is now covering the field and feeds it back inside to Ross Nixon. He's got Craig Jackson for support. His first outing in a Selkirk jersey, and that's perhaps not the best kick from Craig Jackson there. He was inside his 22, but it was a scruffy effort, but he was in his 22. He's been let off for that. He's made some good ground, to be fair.
He has actually. I wondered if that had been taken back in by Hawick there. It was borderline if it wasn't, but
I think Aaron McComb over that far side did just straddle the 22 line, fed it to Nixon, who got Jackson, who's kicked it out, but it was a close call.
Close one, but there's no better person than David Chang Lang, the assistant on this near side, to call that, the hugely experienced David Chang Lang.
I would say Malcolm's probably a better option. There's one better option. No, a lot of experience there from David Chang Lang, who's still offering his services at the top end of Scottish Club Rugby. And it's another accurate line out from Matty Carrier, who in his own admission knows he has to play well, but the carry from Hawick is not as accurate as they would hope, and it's come back on a Selkirk side yet again. It's now in the hands of McComb, and he does well to ride the challenge. The counter ruck did come in from Hawick there, but it's now the co-captain Luke Petty who just runs into a cluster of Hawick jerseys. McComb now feeds Jackson, who's in the first receiver, and it's now James Head. If he can get the offload in, there's space out wide, but a bit clumsy in trying to present that ball back, and you can see the disappointment from the big second row as he looked. I think he had maybe too many options in his head there. He was looking for a supporting player, but in terms of on the floor, Selkirk have been very impressive in snaffling balls when they've been there to try and steal.
Yeah, they're full of dog, Selkirk, so far in this encounter. They're scrapping for everything, and I think they're trying to put a mark on Hawick here to say that you're not going to come to our patch and steamroller us, and the forward exchanges, if anything, have been shaded by Selkirk so far. Yeah,
it's going to be a put into the scrum on the halfway line, but it's probably a good time to pass to Hugh to find out what the scores are around the country in club action.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. Yes, indeed. Well, I can tell you at Riverside Park, it's Jed Forest 7, Curry 0. An early try by Jai McGough, converted by Finlay Scott. So Jed lead Curry by 7 points to 0 at Riverside Park. Elsewhere in the Premiership, it's Musselburgh 8, Mar 3 as the latest score. Musselburgh 8, Mar 3. International League Division 1, Ayr leads GHK by 5 points to 0. And it's Melrose 0, Kelso 3 in that border derby at the Greenyards. Melrose 0, Kelso 3. In National League Division 1 as well, full-time score I mentioned earlier, Stirling County 34, Highland 13. In a match that kicked off at 2 o'clock, it's Watsonians 0, Bigger 13. Watsonians 0, Bigger 13, that's a latest score. And finally in Division 2, it's Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 19. Preston Lodge, in fact it's Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34 now, a latest score in that one. And with that I'll hand you back to Robin and Dale.
Yeah, and from that attacking scrum for Hawick, the tide has been turned yet again, and Selkirk with some great work on the floor and through Nixon. Ross Nixon, the ever versatile and effervescent Ross Nixon, he managed to find some space in the backfield. He's kicked into the 22, but I think the referee is having a little chat with the assistant, because I do believe that Jay Linton did burst out the line with a no-arms tackle and perhaps hit Nixon in the act of kicking the ball forward. So there's an option here for Selkirk as to what they're going to call, and they're having a chat with Petty and McComb to see what they're going to do. But again, that's two occasions where Jay Linton has burst out the line. He's put pressure on Nixon and he's put pressure on Jackson, and he's put late hits and he's left one on them, and this time he's just not got away with it, and he's invited Selkirk deep inside the 22, because that's a brilliant kick from Aaron McComb.
Yeah, he's put it almost 6 metres, I think, Dale, from the try line, McComb, and yeah, he looks really up for this afternoon, Jay Linton. He's been strong with a couple of his own carries, but you're absolutely right, he left one on Nixon there and he was rightly penalised. It was good work by the assistant referees, you have to say.
Yeah, good conversation from the officials, and it's going to be Beck to throw into a really attractive attacking position here. He hits the front of the line out. That's a job done. First one, he hits Monroe job at that, and now the driving maul coming on. It splinters round the side, and it's McClyman who's had his headgear ripped off him. There's a bit of a counter ruck coming on there, but Selkirk still in an attacking position through Head. Head finds Jackson. Jackson's got Welsh in support, who cuts back in field, but he's been wrapped up by Mitchell. The attacking waves keep coming, and now Cochrane. He's having to roll and try and fight to get this ball back. It is in the hands of McComb, who finds Nixon. Nixon looking to try and squeeze through the gap, and he's been wrapped up yet again, but Selkirk making some slow and steady yards here. Shafajak just tipping on. but the gap closed quickly by Hawick. So there was no entry point there to squeeze over the line. Now McClyman, who's managed to get his fashion accessory back on his head. He takes the ball forward. Now in the hands of Jackson. He tries to distribute to Welsh, who was perhaps just a little bit flat. He knocks the ball forward. It's now in a Hawick hand as Selkirk look to try and kill this ball here deep inside the Hawick 22. And that's perhaps an opportunity wasted there as Sean Muir now carries forward. The advantage coming for Hawick as they pass deep into the pocket to Kirk Ford, who can kick clear with his right boot. Almost out of the 22, still inside the 22, but maybe just getting a little bit keen, Selkirk in attack. Maybe Josh Welsh guilty of getting a bit flat.
Yeah, it's a new centre combination, of course. Jackson, who is making his first appearance for Selkirk today, and Welsh, who's played a few times this season on the wing, so maybe just a lack of familiarity there.
It is important, the combination. I think it's something that was perhaps the Achilles heel of Selkirk last year. The change in personnel, the combinations not always working, but there's a combination that's worked there. Bet finds Head in the line out, a great accurate line out at the tail, inside the Hawick 22, and the charge is coming on. And now Bet is peacocking at the back of that driving maul as it makes some steady yards. It's grinding to a halt slightly, but the Hawick players are peeling off the side, and it is still going forward. And now McComb, he looks to try and split around the side. He's gone in the inside to Carrier, and he's almost found the gap there, but the defence gets back round for Hawick, and Selkirk come again. Shafagjak, he carries forward, and he's been ripped by Nicky Little. He's went high on his opposite number, and he's stripped him in the tackle in the attack, and it's now Hawick who turned the ball over yet again. 15 minutes gone here just about at Philip Hawke. It's still 0-0. And this is the best attacking position that Selkirk have been in this game, but they cough up the ball yet again, and Hawick can kick clear, and now they get outside of their own 22. It's a good defensive kick, a good defensive exit from Hawick, but Selkirk looking dangerous on home turf.
Yeah, Selkirk have had all the ascendancy so far, but a really good defensive set by Hawick there. It was a great hit, prop on prop, and the ball was spilled by Svadrak, who actually looked like he took a bit of a dull one there, and the trainers were on to have a look, but he's made a hard stuff, and he's battling on by the looks of things.
Yeah, the man who made the big hit on him, Nicky Little, spent a bit of time at Melrose and a bit of time out of rugby, and you can see the impact that he has in this front row for Hawick. And certainly their squad is a little deeper than it was last year when they fell short in the semi-final up at Mar in the Premiership, and they're leading the pack now as from that line out Selkirk again can launch an attacking platform. A little bit of miscommunication in midfield, but Nixon does find Cottrell coming off his wing looking for work. And now McComb centre field just in front of the Hawick 10 metre line finds Jackson. Jackson looks to go it alone and ghost it and size up his options. He's got nobody in support, but the ball has come back again as Nixon spills the ball out wide to Welsh, and Welsh is looking to stand up. The defensive effort now, Cottrell's trying to manipulate the 2-on-1. Now Munro Job just goes straight over the top of the Hawick defence, but has been well supported there as Nicky Little got back to cover the charging number 8 Head, acting as a pivot to Nixon, who finds Petty going short over the 22. And Selkirk's attacking waves just keep coming as Nixon, he's got Jackson. Jackson's got some options there. He finds Matt Reid, but he's been hit man and ball. And it was a great defensive cover there from Hawick because it was dangerous out wide, but Selkirk are working really, really hard in attack to get the ball back on their side as Head again charges up. Now Nixon's got some support there. He's tried to bounce the ball out of contact, but it's went loose. But again, the endeavour from Selkirk has allowed them to get the ball back on their side, and Luke Petty now acting as an auxiliary number 9. He finds Munro Job, who's setting up a platform. Selkirk have conceded a lot of territory here, and Nixon linking with McClyman, and again conceding territory. That's another 5 or 10 metres back towards the 10 metre line from intense Hawick pressure in defence. And now in the attack, when Selkirk have got the ball in hand, they're clumsy with it, and it's come back in a Hawick side. So Hawick will be very impressed with their own defensive work rate. But from that, Kyle Brunton has tried to kick the ball downfield, and it's you would say an unorthodox charge down there from James Head, because the ball, when it's left Kyle Brunton's foot, has found a couple of his own.
Yes, it's travelled no distance from what was he put his foot right through that, Kyle Brunton, and that's hit James Head from about a metre, exactly where you don't want to be hit, I would say, by the looks of things. And he's rightfully taking his time to come up from this big James Head. Shouldn't laugh, really.
No, you shouldn't laugh.
I'll quantify that by saying I know James well.
Yeah.
And he'll take a bit of playful ribbing about that on Monday.
Yes, it was certainly looked like a sore one. He did fall. It was a very quick travel down to earth as he's getting a bit of attention, but it probably gives us a little time as both teams take a bit of water on and go over the opening exchanges. It's 18 minutes gone here at Philip Hawke. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 0, and we'll see what the scores are around the country.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. Yes, indeed, this is Borders Rugby Special, and I can bring you some score updates. Starting at Riverside Park, it's Jed Forest 7, Curry 5 now. A score for Curry from James McCaig, but the conversion was missed, so it is Jed Forest 7, Curry 5 at Riverside Park. Elsewhere in the Premiership, it's now Musselburgh 8, Mar 8. Musselburgh 8, Mar 8. In Division 1, it's Ayr 8, GHK 5 has the latest score in that one. Ayr 8, GHK 5. It's Melrose 3, Kelso 3 now, so all square at the Green Yards in National League Division 1. And I mentioned the full-time score, Stirling County 34, Highland 13. In Division 2, it's still Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34. Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34. Those are the latest scores then. Let's head back to Robin and to Dale.
Yeah, it's an interesting battle, Melrose versus Kelso. It's as tight as you like there, and it's as equally as tight here. So if you're flying about in the local area, get yourself down to one of these games, because it's a healthy crowd here at Philip Hawke, you have to say, for this big border battle. The two top border teams in Scottish Club Rugby at the moment, if you're looking at the tables. But Hawick are on the attack now. From the scrum, they find Kirkford, who puts in an absolute perler of an exit kick there from deep inside his own half. He just misses the opportunity of a 50-22 as David Changling just puts his size 6 boots to the left hand side of that 22 mark on the Selkirk half, and it's it was a great exit kick, because we've not seen a lot of attacking endeavour from Hawick so far in this game.
Yeah, Kirkford, he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player, isn't he? Lovely kick that's given Hawick their best territory of the game so far, albeit it's going to be a Selkirk line. But a couple of big defensive sets that have set Hawick up here when Selkirk were attacking.
It's a scrappy line out there, and it is spilled back on the Hawick side. The referee was almost going to play on, but he's hoisted his left hand up into the air, signalling that it's going to be a penalty to Selkirk. And Robin, you perhaps got a better view of that than I did, but it was a scrappy line out, and I think Selkirk perhaps fortunate to leave there with a penalty.
I think Selkirk got away with one live wire scrum half Patterson. It came back sort of in unorthodox fashion into his grateful hands, and he set off on a scamper, but yet it was pulled back, and it's Selkirk have sent it down the touchline.
They've managed to encroach on their own 10-metre line. The line-outs have perhaps been a little bit inaccurate from Selkirk, but they're going to try again. They've got Munro Job in the middle, and he's starting to lean ever so slightly. And as you said, Robin, it's squinting. You've got to nail your set piece in these battles. It's 0-0. It's really tight. Selkirk will be looking to try and close the gap on Hawick, but if you're coughing up cheap ball, that can end up resulting in points.
Yeah, and the last time we were here for a live broadcast, it was Selkirk v Edinburgh Accies, and the Selkirk line-out, if we're being honest, on that day was a bit of a shambles from the get-go, and it's just something they need to nail down, because all other facets of their game so far have been absolutely fine. If anything, they're winning the forward battle, and they look dangerous enough when they've got the ball, so it's just something they want to get sorted out the touchline. And
when you would argue they're winning the fight in the floor as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a put into the scrum for Patterson, who scampers back to the base of the scrum and fires a ball to Brunton, who finds Huggin, He's got Mitchell in a tight space there as they both tried to squeeze through the same gap, but it was a good option for Huggin to keep the ball as it gets a bit congested there just inside the Selkirk half centre field. And now Hawick looking to pick and go around the corner, and Jay Linton is the player tasked with that. He just trucks it up. Now Fairbairn, now into the hands of Callum Rennick, who's maybe stole a yard or two, and Patterson sizing up his options as James Bett just almost sneaks round the side of the ruck, and now Jay Linton just goes toe to toe, manages to just barge off 2 or 3 Selkirk players and manages to go forward 5 yards through the hands of Sean Muir, but it has now came back on a Selkirk side, and they're looking to try and counter-attack, but it's been well swallowed up there by Hawick. It's inside the Selkirk half on the far side opposite the stand, just short of the 10-metre line, but it's got Scrappy over there. It's a knock-on from Hawick. It's going to be a put into the scrum, but you feel that it's going to be who blinks first here and makes an error as opposed to who's going to unlock the defence, because defence is so tight from both of these teams. But there's a few errors in there as well.
Yeah, it's a wee bit scrappy, as you expect two really good defences so far that are making the other team cough things up, if you like. Another word there for Jay Linton. He bumped off a couple of burly Selkirk forwards and stole 5 or 6 metres. I don't want to sound like too much of a fanboy, but he is so dynamic.
You're struggling. It's remarkable to see him playing at the consistency and the level he is after his injury last season at Volunteer Park against GHA, and he sustained a very serious neck injury, and now he's back for the cause and adding to the depth of this Hawick team, which we perhaps have alluded to on a few occasions. But I do echo it. I think he is a phenomenal player. And he's certainly getting some air in his lungs now as the referee is just having a little conversation with the two front rows.
You see that the Hawick substitutes that kind of walked past us there. It just emphasises the strength of this Hawick squad. And there's 2 or 3 boys in the 4 squad today that could easily be arguing a case to be in this starting 15 as well. Yeah,
I looked at the 4 squad before we started the game this afternoon, and it was a very, very strong squad. And add to that, I spoke about the battle at hooker between you've got Rennick, you've got Graham, and you've got Carrier as well. But in the forwards there is Hawick just try and drop the anchor and put a bit of pressure on Selkirk to get the ball back on their side. But to allude back to the depth of the squad as a whole, it's a very, very strong bench for Hawick, because there's a bit of pressure on the Selkirk kick as Matt Reid tried to find some space, but Patterson tried to sweep it up the loose ball. He wasn't able to get it under his spell, and now it's Ronan McKean who's looking to break free from his own half. He did get 2 tries against Selkirk in the opening game of the season, a game that Hawick could have perhaps won if it wasn't for the width of a rugby post, as Kirk Ford kissed the sticks with his winning conversion. And now Matty Carey finds himself like a couch jow on his back, but he does well to get the ball back to the Hawick side. Ironic, he's a shepherd as well, but it's come back to Hector Patterson, who's just getting a little bit of length on the ruck to put that box kick up. He's got good height on that, and maybe not a lot of distance, but it's certainly one that's competitive, and it's just fallen into the breadbasket of Dalton Redpath. And Patterson gets to the breakdown quickly, finds Linton in some wide space, and I really like that about Jay Linton. He really tests and stretches that defence, and now Kyle Brunton looking to try and turn the Selkirk defence, and Craig Jackson finds himself back there, not looking to try and play that quick, but he does throw the ball back into play pretty sharply, and it's been kicked downfield from Selkirk, looking to try and keep the tempo high. But Kirk Ford is back in his own half. He's now onto the halfway line. He checks his run and goes back left towards the touch line, but he's been well defended there by Selkirk. And now the breakdown on the Selkirk 10 metre line. Hawick have got some options there. One of them is the Sean Muir, who is clattered in defence and just coughs up the ball, and now Nixon distributes. He's then ended up in the hands of Reid, who finds Welsh, who goes back in field. He goes inside Mitchell and then goes inside Nicky Little as well. So a couple of players looking to try and stop Josh Welsh, because they know what a threat he is in open play. Aaron McComb finds Luke Petty on the 10 metre line. Matty Carrier looking to try and get the ball back on his side, but not able to, and he's cleared out well. James Bett passing out the back door to Craig Jackson, who probably finds himself a little bit flat. And Hawick looking to try and counter on that, but it's been a knock on. And it is just one of those games, both teams playing really well with the ball in hand, but just that final ball, that end ball, is just not coming off for either team.
Yeah, it's the defences, especially at the breakdown area. Selkirk in particular have been absolutely immense at the sort of breakdown stroke contact area so far. They're giving Hawick all kinds of headaches in that department, but yeah, just defences on top here, and it's 2 border teams going at each other, and they both look bang up for it.
Yeah, they're cancelling each other out so far here at Philip Hawke. We're 27 minutes into this game. It's still Selkirk 0, Hawick 0, and it'll be interesting to see how perhaps the other border derby as well is getting on with Melrose entertaining Kelso and some other fixtures from around the country.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. Yes, well, I can tell you it's still 3-3 at the Green Yards between Melrose and Kelso, so a tight one there in National League Division 1. Elsewhere, latest score is now Jed Forest 17, Curry 5. Jed Forest 17, Curry 5. Rory Marshall tries superb touchline conversion from Finlay Scott. We're told Jed 17, Curry 5, a latest score in that one at Riverside Park. Still tied between Musselburgh and Mar in the Premiership at 8 points each. 8-all is the latest score in that one. Into Division 1, I've mentioned 3-all at the Green Yards. It's 15-5 in favour of Ayr at home to GHK in that National League Division 1, Ayr 15, GHK 5. And also in Division 1, that full time, Stirling County 34, Highland 13. And it's Watsonians 0, Biggar 13. Watsonians 0, Biggar 13. In Division 2 now, Dumfries 0, Lasswade 7 is a latest score. And it's the opposite way round in the game at Hamilton. Hamilton lead Berwick by 7 points to 0. Hamilton 7, Berwick 0. And finally that full time at Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34 in Division 2 of the National League. And with that, I'll hand you back to our commentary team.
Selkirk get the ball back on their side from a scrum, and it's Craig Jackson who was looking to try and find some space, and it was open field and he looked like he could have unlocked that defence, but Selkirk doing well. And now it's Aaron McComb who's got his Strictly Come Dancing shoes on as he's having to pirouette and weave his way out of trouble in a congested area. And Selkirk doing really well to move the target as Shafagjak now offers himself up for a carry just on the 10 metre line. McComb slow to the breakdown, which slows the tempo slightly, but Matt Reid has got some space over here. Now Munro Job gets the ball through his hands. Ryan Cottrell looks to kick downfield and he has turned Kirk forward, but again he's been marshalled out the field of play. It was perhaps some interesting defending there from Lewis Ferguson, and just made himself a target. It's been kicked clear, and it's a good kick there from Hawick. And the assistant referee and the referee going to have a little conversation, because that is an excellent kick if it's been adjudged to be inside the 22, which I believe it was. And Hawick take the play towards the Selkirk 10 metre line.
Yeah, a lot of the plays there are a lot of plays in this sort of middle third of the pitch at the moment. It's another wonderful strike out the hand from that man Kirk Ford, and he sent that all of 50 metres to give Hawick more territory in what has been a no quarter asked or any given encounter so far, Dale.
Yeah, it's been an interesting game. You would think if the score was 0-0 it would be a bit of a bore, but it's been an entertaining game for a 0-0. As again an unorthodox line out from Selkirk does fall into the hands of Shafagjak, but it was, he didn't have to get hoisted into the sky. He just kept his feet firmly on planet Earth, and it just fell into his grateful hands. And now Hawick doing well on the floor, a battle which they've perhaps been second best at so far, and it's Matty Carrier who leads from the front, got himself in a very good position over that ball. It's came back, and it's going to be a penalty to Hawick in an interesting position, because Kirk Ford is starting to come forward, and it'll be interesting to see what decision they're going to make here.
Yeah, I'd fancy Kirk Ford to want a crack from here, but Matty Carrier I just think he's a wonderful player, both sides of the ball, does it, scores tries, trucks it up, immense on the floor there, and yeah, just a great player. You mentioned it before, the depth, the quality that Hawick have at hooker. There's three hookers there in and around this Hawick squad that would saunter into most other first teams.
Yeah, Kirk Ford, I'm going to come to that point, because Kirk Ford has opted to kick to touch. Matty Carrier is going to throw into the line out, but you look at the players that they've got: Fraser Rennick, Ross Graham. Matty Carrier is a different hooker. Obviously I know him well. I'm not going to praise him when he doesn't need praise, but he brings something different. Definitely. He is almost like an extra front row, like a prop, as opposed to Rennick and Graham, who are almost like back rows. It's that hybrid, and Hawick are really blessed to have three top quality hookers, because a lot of teams across the country would cry out for hookers of that calibre. And Matty Carrier hits his target on the 22 again as Brunton looks to try and feed Callum Rennick, who's been shot out of a cannon. The pace that he's arrived at that ball at. Now Brunton going against the grain. He's got Kirk Ford, he stabs through. There's a chase, is on. Is the ball going to go up kindly for Hawick? It's fallen at the foot of Lachlan Ferguson, and it's not Lachlan Ferguson, sorry, it's Lewis Ferguson, the Hawick winger. He was in the right place at the right time. It was scrappy there, and I wonder if the referee has called that the try has been given. There's going to be a conversation here, but great work from Brunton to kick through. It was the chase was on from Ford, who tried to hack it forward, and it was Lewis Ferguson who eventually managed to just gather the bouncing ball and squeeze it over the line, and it's an opening score here from Hawick.
Yeah, we've spoken about the defences being on top, Dale, and yeah, the Hawick standoff, Kyle Brunton, that he had the key to unpick the lock there. Beautiful grubber kick, and yeah, there was almost a bit of a guddle there as the ball bounced about, but Ferguson was quick on the scene. He dived on it, and yeah, first blood to Hawick.
Lewis Ferguson, the winger for Hawick, Lachlan Ferguson, the winger for Selkirk, both wearing number 14, so keeping me on my toes this afternoon. But it was the Hawick player, Lewis Ferguson, who did get the try, and Kirk Ford has now got a touchline conversion about 2 metres in from the touchline on the stand side for a right-footed kicker. He's going to have to try and curve it away from the posts the natural trajectory of the ball. He stabs it, he tries to get a low angle at that kick, but it just drifts in front of the sticks and goes to the left hand side. But it's you would say the 5-0 perhaps against the run of play.
If anything, I think Hawick have come a lot more back into it in the last 10 minutes or so, in fairness to them. But yeah, this could still go anyway, and I'm not reading too much into a 5-point lead at this stage.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that it was a matter of who made the mistake first, but it was a good option from the captain Carrier to go to the corner, and it was accuracy from his line out and a great kick against the grain from Brunton to open up that opportunity. And now the restart from McComb down the throat of Dalton Redpath, who gathers it well and sets up a better platform here as Carrier is having to go it alone, but the Hawick players do arrive to help support the captain and get the ball back on a Hawick side as they'll be looking to try and work through their exit strategy. You can see Kyle Brunton deep in the pocket, Patterson sizing up for a box kick. He does just that. It looks like it's almost going to make the halfway line. It's well contested there, and another hack through for Hawick, and it's fortunately bounced on their side, but the referee has said there's a knock on there from Hawick. It's going to be a put into the scrum, and that is when it's dangerous. You know, when you get that aerial battle with the accurate kick. Patterson doing a little bit better there than he did at the start of the first half.
Yeah, it's a really good kick by Patterson there, and when you've got a winger the height of Ronan McKean, he was quick onto that, and that almost came back on the Hawick side there. And as I said before, Hawick have grown into this game. They soaked up what Selkirk threw at them early doors, and I've been impressed with their composure.
Yeah, it's been a dogged display from Selkirk, and you would feel they've been harrying and harassing Hawick for the opening 34 minutes of this game. But Hawick are starting to get a grasp on this fixture. Just a reminder, the Bill McLaren Shield is up for grabs, a shield that Selkirk have yet to get their name on, I believe.
I think you're right.
I'd have to fact check that, but I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me right, they've not actually got their name on the shield. It was a shield that was won from Hawick against Edinburgh Accies, a team that they actually relinquished it from, and they got their name on the shield after a victory against Heriots. So Hawick have got their name firmly on the Bill McLaren Shield.
It's a good concept. I'd like to see a bit more made of it, to be honest. And you know, you look at the log of wood, as they call it, the Ranfurly Shield in New Zealand provincial rugby. It's massive over there. It's absolutely massive. And yeah, I'd like to see a wee bit more made of the Bill McLaren Shield, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's especially in club rugby, it's a great opportunity to lead your team for a bit of silverware, and it gives a little bit extra spice to the battle here. And it's going to be a put into the scrum on the halfway line. It's Selkirk Munro Job just feeding off the back to Ferguson, who tries to peel off and create that overlap, and he almost does just that. And Matt Reid now kicks forward, and Ryan Cottrell has got a foot race here with Ronan McKean, and McKean is just going to win and get to the tape first, gets the ball down, and that was a great bit of open rugby from Selkirk in what is clatchy conditions. They were able to find a little bit of space in open field and give Cottrell his first real chance to show his pace, but McKean covering the field well.
Yeah, he looks dangerous. Cottrell, he's a lovely runner. He glides across he seems to glide across the surface no matter what kind of nick the surface is in. But that was really good covering by big Ronan McKean there. He was quick onto that, he spotted the danger, and he was over, and he's touched it down. It's going to be a goal line drop out to Hawick here.
It keeps the pressure on Hawick as we're approaching the closing stages of this game. 36.5 minutes gone, and Hawick with the goal line dropout, and it's a scruffy one, but it's just falling into the hands of Nixon on the 10 metre line. He finds Craig Jackson, who's just going to probably just truck it up, does just that, finds a little gap in between Fairbairn and I think that was perhaps Carrier there, and then they go against the grain. Luke Petty finds himself in a distributing position, and now Munro Job linking up well with Bet as Selkirk approach the Hawick 22 now. Bet finds Nixon, who's at first receiver. He floats a ball to Shafagjak, but he does well to gather it under some intense Hawick pressure. And now McComb again finds Jackson. He tries to stab it through, and now against the turn, Mitchell has fly hacked that through. It's going to bobble out of the field of play, but perhaps Jackson just a little bit too close to the defensive line from Hawick. Not a lot of a gap there to try and stab that through. And again, Hawick doing well to turn it, fly hack through, and just make it a foot race.
Yeah, solid defence. Oh, it's been taken quickly.
I think they're going to bring that back. Yep.
Yeah, solid defence by Hawick again there, which almost led. It looked like it led to Jackson almost sort of thinking that Selkirk could run out of ideas there, and went for the grubber through, and it was fairly easily marshalled by that Hawick defence. And yeah, they look content enough to live off Selkirk scraps here. I think they've got such confidence in their defence and their attack.
It's an interesting player. I think Craig Jackson is a brilliant ball carrier and obviously got a good boot, and especially when you've got a 10 like Nixon, he's a good skillful player, but perhaps not best known for his kicking game. And James Head is from the line out, is an accurate line out from Selkirk, and it's James Head rampaging his way over the halfway line, and now Nixon distributing well to Josh Welsh, who's another very talented rugby player who can play multiple positions. And now on the halfway line, Aaron McComb is just sizing up his options, taking his time to get the ball out there, and now hoists it into the sky from his right boot and trying to make this a foot race. And it was Patterson who was back there looking to try and gather that ball and knocked it on, and now it is Josh Welsh now trying to weave his way out of trouble. He does well to take that closer towards the Hawick 22 as Selkirk look to finish this half with a bit of a flourish. They're certainly ending it the way that they started. It's bounced off the shoulder of Craig Jackson, who's found a little bit of space in the Hawick 22. The mark's not been called by Kirk Ford because he's just lumped that straight back down to Selkirk, and he's kicked that just outside of the Selkirk 22. Ross Nixon now a little chip and chase, showing his flair. A man who can play back row, fly hacks it down towards the Hawick 22 now. And it's Patterson who's there looking to try and mop it up, but he's probably just sclaffed at that. It's came off the right side of his boot over at the stand here, and I would say Selkirk have certainly won the percentages there.
Yeah, net gain for Selkirk, shanked off the side of the boot by Patterson there, and yeah, they'll be happy enough with that. Selkirk, again, Hawick looking reasonably comfortable, however, with whatever Selkirk are throwing at them at the moment.
I'd like to see Ross Nixon's direct feed from our commentary, because after saying that he's not got much of a kicking game, he's certainly exhibited it well over the last couple of minutes with a little chip and chase.
Did.
It's now into the hands of the aforementioned Nixon, who's got a little show and go, but he's been wrapped up well. The Selkirk players should get there and comfortably get that back on a suitor side. James Head peeling round the side of the ruck and does fine. I think that's Cochrane. It's actually McComb who's splintered the defence over to the Hawick 5 metre line, and it's now Selkirk looking to try and just inch their way forward. But the attacking play from Bet there, just a little bit over eager, and he coughs the ball up. And Cottrell now is having to turn back deep inside his own half. He looks to stand up Fairbairn and go round him, kick it downfield, and then it was a very questionable challenge there from Fairbairn, who led with perhaps a shoulder in his elbow, but the assistant referee's deeming that fair.
I think if he'd made any attempt with his arms there, Fairbairn, he'd have been fine. I think it was the lack of arms that's done him there.
Yeah, I don't think it's been picked up, however, but I think it perhaps has, because
it has.
The referee has signalled that there is going to be a penalty for a no-arms tackle, and totally agree. Yeah, I think if he'd maybe made more of an attempt to try and wrap his Ryan Cottrell, who was certainly had, was going through his menu of options.
Timing-wise, I think he was fine.
Yeah, definitely, he was there. It was an opportunity to go man and ball, but he's just absolutely clattered him. And Aaron McComb now is going to kick downfield. He's going to try and get this as close to the corner flag as possible, and you would imagine this is going to be the last phase of play. They've been safe with that because he's just nudged it inside the Hawick 22, and this is where the set piece does come into it.
Definitely, and continually said that Hawick have looked fairly comfortable in defence, but this is going to be a test, and the last thing Hawick will want to do is concede from here just before half time.
Thrown to the line out, Head rises the highest out of everybody there, and he's been hoisted into the Selkirk sky, brings down the ball to the maul, and it's squirted out the back of that, as it's now into the hands of Craig Jackson, who finds Lachlan Ferguson off his wing. His almost namesake Lewis Ferguson in a 14 jersey has got the only score so far here. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 5, as we approach the half-time whistle here at Philip Hoch in Tennent's Premiership action. And now Aaron McComb finds Nixon, who's probably not got a lot of options on his left shoulder, and he just trucks it up, which is he's certainly able to do. And now Jackson, who's trying to use some footwork to get inside of this Hawick defence, but they're finding it very, very hard. Hawick not committing a lot of bodies to the breakdown, which is meaning they can spread the field really well, because I feel Selkirk are getting very lateral in their attack so far. And Nixon now out the back of McClyman, and it's Ryan Cottrell who was out the pocket. He looks to try and offload, and now it's been fly hacked yet again downfield, and the chase is now on. But Lachlan Ferguson doing well to get back. He's been met with two big mongrels in Redpath and Fairbairn, I think that was, or perhaps Linton, who got back to put a bit of pressure on the Selkirk winger. And now Selkirk on their 22, Jackson, he's going to kick it out. It's safely kicked off the field of play, and the referee purses his lips round the whistle, and he blows for half time. And it's half time here. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 5, maybe an opportunity to see what the scores are around the country, and we'll get the thoughts of Robin Purdie on what has been a very interesting first half. Hugh.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. Yes, let me bring you the latest scores as we have them around the country. In the Premiership, it's finished GHA 25, Edinburgh Accies 34. So a win for Accies this afternoon away from home. Elsewhere in the Premiership at Riverside Park, the latest score we have is Jed Forest 20, Curry 12. Jed Forest 20, Curry 12. It was a second score for Curry, but Jeds have made the distance between the teams 8 points thanks to a penalty. So Jed Forest 20, Curry 12. It's now Musselburgh 11, Mar 8 in East Lothian in the Premiership. Musselburgh 11, Mar 8. Into Division 1, full-time Aberdeen 21, Dundee 20 in that 12 o'clock kickoff. Elsewhere, Ayr 22, GHK 9 is 5, is a latest score. Ayr 22, GHK 5. And at the Greenyards, it's now Melrose 3, Kelso 8. Melrose 3, Kelso 8, a latest score at the Greenyards. Also in National 1, Stewart's Melville 0, Gala 10. Stewart's Melville 0, Gala 10. Full-time Stirling County 34, Highland 13. And up in the capital, it's Watsonians 0, Biggar 18. So a good game for Biggar this afternoon, that one that kicked off at 2 o'clock. Watsonians 0, Biggar 18, a latest score. Into Division 2, it's Hamilton 14, Berwick 0. Hamilton 14, Berwick 0. So the men from Scremerston being defeated at the moment by Hamilton at away from home. And finally in Division 2, full-time scoreline, Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34 in the game that kicked off at 1 o'clock. Still to come, second half coverage of this exciting match between Selkirk against Hawick. That's right after this short break.
Hello, this is George Ingles here, and I'm thrilled that my songs are now available on 2 albums, Anthology and Lockdown Blues.
Late in the evening, she's wondering what clothes to wear.
Both available on iTunes to download and stream.
I am the train, been gone since 69.
George Ingles Anthology and Lockdown Blues. Check them out now on iTunes and other digital sites.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 Years On, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8 DVD box set, the complete Borders Railway, is available now.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Learning Manager for Sports and Outdoor Activities at Borders College. Have you ever considered turning your passion for sport into a rewarding career? If so, then why not get in touch at borderscollege.ac.uk/sport.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven, we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com. Brave the storm.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
And welcome back from me, Hugh Brown, to Borders Rugby Special. It's 3:46 and a couple of more updates for you, score updates at the Greenyards. They've moved on. It's Melrose 6, Kelso 11. Melrose 6, Kelso 11 is our latest score. And up in the capital at Inverleith, Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 10 is the latest scoreline. Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 10. Just a reminder that a little bit later on this afternoon, you can watch Scotland's first autumn test against Australia, which kicks off at 5:30. You can view that on Amazon Prime, or you can hear full commentary on TalkSport with Andrew Rennick, Chris Patterson and our own Stuart Cameron building up to the game from 5 o'clock. But meanwhile, back here at Philip Hawke, it's been a thoroughly entertaining first 40 minutes between Selkirk and Hawick in this border derby. And Dale, we thought it might be tight, and that is how it's been in this first half.
Yeah, it definitely has. Alongside us is Robin Purdie, and it's been such a tight battle between these two sides. We said before, how close it was going to be. Selkirk going well in the league, Hawick also, sitting top. They've obviously went 7 games unbeaten since that opening draw. There's only been 7 points to separate these two teams over their last 5 fixtures, and it's 5-0 at half time to the visitors.
Yeah, Selkirk seem to have something on Hawick. They've not. I don't think they've beaten them in that time, but they certainly posed them problems. That is for sure. And yeah, it's been a real ding dong. It's been a battle, an up front battle. It's a real day for the forwards, but the defences have been absolutely superb. Some of the counter rucking, some of the donkey work that's gone on the ground, particularly by Selkirk, I have to say. But Hawick, to me, just look composed. Dale, they don't look flustered. They are 5-0 to the good. I mean, it's anybody's game. It completely is. But yeah, I've been impressed by Hawick's composure.
I totally agree. I think that I would say Selkirk they've been dogging on the floor. I think perhaps maybe up to about 20 minutes they were really rattling Hawick, and then I feel Hawick did settle after that, and they did look comfortable. I feel that attacking wise, we didn't really discuss it so much before the game, but in terms of Craig Jackson, obviously coming across from Southern Knights and his coaching stint at Gala, we've seen little bits of his influence in terms of taking the ball to the line, distributing, kicking, and looking to try and set up a platform. But I would say, including him, Selkirk have found it really, really difficult to get over that gain line to really turn the Hawick defence.
Yeah, and it's that Hawick are hunting as a pack. They look completely comfortable in their own skin, defensive wise. As a collective and as individuals, there's been very little by way of missed tackles. There was a good Selkirk sort of midfield break by, I think it was Macomb, who was put through with some lovely deft hands by James Head. But other than that, the Hawick defence has not really been carved open with any degree of seriousness. And yeah, but either team could come out in the second half and a couple of quick scores, and it's either game over if Hawick do that, or Selkirk are right back in it. Obviously, but yeah, it's still too tough. It's too tight for this one to call, Dale. You would say before the game, I think both teams would have probably taken the scoreline. Obviously Selkirk, I don't think would obviously agree to being behind, but I think being in touching distance, a one opportunistic score, a reminder of the score. It was an accurate line out from Matty Carrier. The ball managed to go centre field. It was against the grain. Kyle Brunton came through on the 22, stabbed a kick through. It got a little bit messy in the corner, which Kirk Ford managed just to sclaff it forward, which Lewis Ferguson picked up and squirmed his way over the line. But that was the only scoring in this game, and it was from an opportunity that we thought Kirk Ford might have went for a penalty. So justified decision from Captain Carrier. Oh, definitely. What do we know? I seem to do that every week. Say I take the 3 points and then they go score a 7-pointer or a 5-pointer. But yeah, it wasn't. It's not going to make any highlights reel, that try, but it had to be scored. And Ferguson was the most alert, and he put Hawick 5 points to the good. And yeah, that sort of one time in the red zone, if you like, and Hawick have come away with 5 points, and they are top of the league, and they're top of the league for a reason.
Yeah, definitely. It gives us a little bit of time to try and just reevaluate what we've got in front of us and see where this game's going to go, and we can certainly get an update of all the scores and what's going on. But we're certainly looking forward to what is going to be a really entertaining second half here at Philip Hawke in Tennent's Premiership action.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale and Robin. Let me update you once again on the scores as we have them. A full-time score, in fact, in the East Bowl quarter-final. It's finished Hawick Quinn 74, Gala YM 0. Hawick Quinn 74, Gala YM 0. Don't think there are many other changes. What I brought you just before the break. Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 10 is the latest score. And at the Green Yards, it's Melrose 6, Kelso 11. In National League 1 as well, Ayr at Millbrae, it's Ayr 22, GHK 5. Into the Premiership, it finished GHA 25, Edinburgh Accies 34 in that 1 o'clock kick-off up there, through there in Glasgow. And in the Premiership, the latest from Riverside Park remains Jed Forest 20, Curry 12, Jed Forest 20, Curry 12. In Division 1, in National 2 rather, it's Dumfries 0, Lasswade 7. Hamilton 14, Berwick 0 is the latest score. And finally, full-time result, Preston Lodge 3, Falkirk 34 is how that one finished in National League Division 2. Second half just about to get underway. The teams re-emerge. Hawick just coming out onto the pitch, leading by 5 points to 0 after the first 40 minutes. Let's head now for live and exclusive coverage of the second period of this game with summariser Robin Purdie and commentator Dale Clancy.
Yes, welcome back to Philip Hawke for second half action, and as the teams exit the tunnel just below us in the stand, it's interesting to see, the state of the shirts, to be fair, because there's still a few clean jerseys in there. Kirk Ford and Kyle Brunton perhaps not got as much clar on the back of their shirts as you would imagine.
Yeah, they don't really need to do any of the hard stuff, the donkey work, when you've got a pack of forwards like that, do they?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an interesting second half. Hawick still sit at the summit of the Tenants Premiership, undefeated so far this season. Their only blip on the radar, you would argue, is the draw in their opening game of the season against Selkirk, who they face this afternoon. They've got a slender 5-point lead at half time. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 0, and the referee is just having the final conversations. He's got his hand poised on his left wrist to get play underway, and Kirk Ford kicks the leather off it down towards Munro Job, who gathers that with as much youthful enthusiasm as you would expect from a really talented 18-year-old player who's on the radar of the age grade professional teams and training currently with the Edinburgh under 18s, 19s and 20s ahead of a clash against Glasgow at Scotstoun on Tuesday night, along with a replacement Finlay Whelans as well, and Cameron Eason, who's a Selkirk player. But Selkirk look to try and secure the ball inside their own 22. The referee's got a good look at that, but players have slowed down to pedestrian pace. It's Nixon at fly half who kicks it centre field, well gathered by Ford. It's now in the hands of Jay Linton, who's waiting back in the pocket, and he absolutely melts Munro Job, goes through him, gets the offload to Ronan McKean, and he's been well tackled there by Matt Reid, who comes out of the full back position. Now Jay Linton yet again recycling himself, gets the offload. Dalton Redpath charging up the tram lines, but just knocks the ball on, and the power there from Jay Linton.
Oh yeah, and he the work rate of him as well. He smashed into the first contact, and he was back up to go again. And yeah, I tell you, I've been really, really impressed in this game as well by Dalton Redpath. He's really put himself about, and he was on hand there with another great show of work rate. He was almost away down this near touchline, and yeah, I think you used the word in the first half that there are some mongrels in this, some absolute mongrels, some dogs in this Hawick forward pack.
Dalton Redpath is a cracking player. Obviously spent a bit of time with the Southern Knights in what was a fruitful campaign a couple of seasons ago. Obviously a bit different for the Southern Knights now. On the back of what was a disappointing campaign, losing players like Dalton Redpath, who is an out-and-out second row.
Oh yeah,
modern day second row. He's a brilliant player.
Yeah, he's came back to Hawick a better player as well. He's a massive asset for them.
So it's going to be a put into the scrum for Selkirk. The nudge does come on a bit prematurely from Hawick. It's a shrill of the whistle from the referee. He's going to have a little conversation with the front rows. The very accurate, intelligent information will go in one ear and out the other, as they'll probably try and get the upper hand again and steal these little cheap yards. But there's two really good front rows in there.
Yeah.
Luke Petty with a lot of experience, co-captain in the side alongside Shafag Jacques on the other side of the scrum.
Yeah, Nick, how much of a second kind of lease of life is Nicky Little having at the moment as well? He's playing tremendously well. Yeah,
he's 3 tries so far this season. He's been a great asset to have back in the arsenal of the Hawick weaponry. And now Craig Jackson, who's tasked with trying to get the platform set up for Selkirk as they look to exit their own danger area. Aaron McComb box kicking that forward, gets good length on it, and it's straight under the throat of Hector Patterson, who does well to gather that under some pressure just on the 10 metre, the halfway line. And it's going to come back on a Hawick side. And the aforementioned Nicky Little was one of the players just stacked in there to keep it in support. 4 players have to try and join their arms together and get round Matty Carrier and bring him to ground. Now Sean Muir taking the ball forward, inching over the halfway line. Hawick now looking a little bit more assured as Brunton just picks that off the toes, tries a crossfield kick, but this perhaps might be a little bit more dangerous than he imagined when he went through his repertoire there, as dancing back in field as Ryan Cottrell. He almost finds some space inside the Hawick defence as Selkirk look to counter. Now Nixon finds head in centre field, looks to get the offload to Shafag Jacques, who does well to look to offload to Job, but it's opened up for Ronan McKean. Ronan McKean is now going to pin the lugs back. Aaron McComb looks for the tap tackle, but Ronan McKean counter-attacking play from the winger, and he is going to get his 5th try so far this season, his 3rd against Selkirk, and Hawick stretch their lead.
Yeah, and it was a bit of loose work by the Selkirk forwards, trying to pass out the contact when they might have been better. Serge sticking up the jumper, but Ronan McKean, he's built like a second row, but he literally is a sprinter. A couple of victories in the Border Summer Circuit for him, no less, this summer, and he needed no second invitation to pin his ears back there. He must have gone for what, 40-45 metres at least?
Definitely. It was right in front of us on the halfway line, and Celtic were trying to shift the point of contact to perhaps open up that defence, and all they done was left themselves vulnerable because the ball bubbled about and Ronan McKean just gobbled it up, pinned the lugs back, went the distance and got a score in the corner. It's still a challenging conversion kick, but Hawick do stretch their lead here at Philip Hawke. It's Selkirk 0, Hawick 10, and Ronan McKean, the try machine, gets 5 tries. As we say, he got 2 in the opening. The game against Selkirk adds to his tally, but Hawick will be very impressed with the way that they've come out in their second half. Kirk forward with a conversion on the 22, just a few yards away from the 15-metre line. He's caught it well, but it's to the left-hand side of the posts. As he can't add the extras, but Matty Carrier's going to be replaced by Fraser Rennick, who's
my word,
exactly, I know, who's going to be back in a Hawick jersey after a bit of time away from the club.
Yeah, and what to bring on the most recent captain of the Southern Knights. He was a wonderful player at that level. He was a standout player at that level, and now he's back in a Hawick jersey, coming on as a sub. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that if you're a Hawick fan.
It brings something different as Dalton Redpath went toe to toe there with Lachlan Ferguson in the air, and it's probably the man conceding a lot in height advantage who won that battle, plucks the ball out of the sky and out of the grasp as James Head carries the ball up, offloads out of the congested area, but Scott McClyman looked to try and carry the ball forward, but he was engulfed by a very dominant Hawick tackle there. I think it was Jay Linton again who burst out the line, and now McComb and Cochrane pairing up to carry the ball forward. It was actually Nicky Little who made the tackle. It's a knock on there from Hawick, but it's certainly, that I think that is perhaps where this game has been built off some very, very good defence. Opportunistic. Both Hawick scores, you could argue, but certainly the second one, just intense defence, covering the field.
Yeah, intense defence, ball breaks, they're in for a try. Said before, they're top of the league, and they're top of the league for a reason. There was some great play actually there by James Head, big carry, got the offload away, but Nicky Little absolutely smashed his man there.
Yeah, Nicky Little.
These modern day props.
Yeah, you can just see him getting some attention from the physio. Side profile, he's certainly an old school prop, but it gives us a little chance while he's getting patched up to hear some scores from around the country. As some games finish, some games are firmly underway in the second half, so we can get a catch up with you.
Yes, staggered kickoffs today because of the Scotland Autumn Test. Of course, let me bring you the games as we have them. Full time in the Premiership, GHA 25, Edinburgh Accies 34. Latest from Riverside Park is still Jed Forest 20, Curry 12. Full time is Musselburgh 11, Mar 8. That's quite a result for Musselburgh. Musselburgh 11, Mar 8. And in the Premiership, latest is Selkirk 0, Hawick 10. As we know, that's the game we're watching here at Philip Hawke, of course. Into Division 1, full-time Aberdeen 20, Dundee 21, Dundee 20, Aberdeen 21, Dundee 20. Latest is Ayr 22, GHK 5. In Division 1 at the Greenyards, it's Melrose 6, Kelso 11, latest. Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 13 is also a latest in Division 1. Full-time Stirling County 34, Highland 13. Also full-time Watsonians 5, Biggar 21 up in the capital. And finally in the East Bowl quarter-final, it finished Hawick Quins 74, Gala YM 0. And with that, I'll hand you back to Robin and Dale.
You perhaps heard a round of applause and a cheer from the spectators here at Philip Hawke, and it was going the way for the visiting fans because it was a Hawick penalty after what looked like a very attractive attacking opportunity for Selkirk over on the banking side here, hit their home patch, and it's a penalty that's going to be licked downfield from Kirk Ford. But you've got to wonder where they're going to breach this Hawick defence. I feel
it looks like a green wall at the moment. As I said before, they just look so comfortable in each other, so trusting in each other, and yeah, championship wins, they say, are built on defences, and if Hawick are going to go deep into this competition, which I feel they will, and their defence will be an absolute key part of that.
And Kieran Thompson is coming on to replace Shafag for Selkirk. I would echo that in terms of, I think that Hawick have looked to form team. However, all teams in the Premiership look pretty vulnerable this year. that the line out does come back on a Hawick side. It was flapped about and pawed in the air between both the jumpers, but it's been knocked on as Hawick looked to try and launch an attack. And you would imagine this is where perhaps the opportunities could come from Selkirk. Attractive centre field positions at a set piece. If they can get the ball back and stretch this defence, then this is when they're going to test them and turn them.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a decent attacking platform. It was a slight error there, which has coughed up the possession in Selkirk's favour. You mentioned the vulnerability of teams there, Dale. That's an unbelievable result. Musselburgh v Mar. I'm going to stop predicting. On the preview show, I called that all day long a Mar bonus point victory, so make of that what you will.
Yeah, be a splinter bum, just sit in the fence, get splinters and don't predict anything. It opens yourself up for too much grief, but it is, and I think that is what this league is. I go back to Selkirk, because Selkirk were poor last year by their own admission as well. They were poor, so were Jed, and you look how they've galvanised themselves this season, and you would say Jed have done it probably in a more impressive fashion, because they've not really changed the fabric of their squad too much.
Yeah, not much by way of recruitment at Riverside. Mason Cullen coming back from injury, that's been like a new signing. He's been a revelation for them. But yeah, speaking of Jed, that's not a great, Jed are mid-table at the moment. They've got a tough run of games coming up, and they could have done with a Mar victory at Stonyhill today. Yeah, but they're going about their business well. They're currently leading Curry 20 points to 12 at Riverside, so Jed Forrest in the lead there. Another player who's perhaps like a new signing for his club is Aaron McComb, who's the scrum half for Selkirk this afternoon. He spent most of last season out in the physio room, and he's looking back to his best here for the Suitors. As the ball's rolled into the scrum, it starts to kind of twist and weave, but Munro Job does well to gather the ball as it goes in behind his legs, and Nixon stabs it downfield, and Lachlan Ferguson is tasked with trying to put a bit of pressure on Kirk Ford, who again kicks downfield and looks unflustered and almost unmarked on his shirt. As Selkirk try and push the ball back infield, Ryan Cottrell has thought he'd seen a space there, but the flailing Hawick arms were quick to make sure that gap was closed, as James Bett is on the fringes. He manages to steal a couple of yards there again for Selkirk, as Aaron McComb just drags that ball back for a box kick, hoists it into the sky, and it's Ronan McKean underneath that. It's Hector Patterson, underneath that. And it's been met with intense pressure from Selkirk as they try and get the bodies there and get the ball back on their side, but Hawick have done well deep inside their own half to get it back. Sean Muir acting as scrum half. He does find Jay Linton again, and I know we don't give out man of the match awards and accolades on Borders Rugby Radio, but he would certainly be up there in nomination. But the Selkirk players alert to that. The ball squirts out the ruck, and they cluster round and engulf the Hawick players as they try to get that back. Fraser Rennick now with his first real charge, and it's straight into the shoulder of James Head as he marches them back a few yards. The defence from Selkirk getting a little bit flatter as they cover the backfield and premeditate the next phase of this game, and it's going to be a box kick from Patterson, and he hits the back of Callum Rennick's head, and it was Brunton who sweeps up the ball, and now Ford has got Ferguson, the opening try scorer in this game, looks to try and stand up his opposite man and go back in field, but he's been tackled well as he escapes his own 22. Hawick now through the hands of Rennick. It's Callum Rennick this time. He tucks the ball up and looks to try and buy some time as the players gather there, but the ball has gone loose, and Ross Nixon has gathered that, showing what hybrid player he is, now playing 10. He's played a bit at blindside flanker as well so far this season, but it's been stabbed downfield, and it's Mark Reid. He's making this a foot race, and it's going to be a try for Selkirk, and I think it looks like it was Lachlan Ferguson who got on the end of that. It looked like it was something out of nothing for the Suitors, and they kicked downfield, and it was you would say that's great awareness from Selkirk to see that there was an opportunity there. They kicked downfield, and it's a great try from Selkirk. Can they close the gap here? This game is certainly not done yet. Yeah, it's the day of the grubber, Dale, and that stemmed from one of the only Hawick errors of this half so far. They coughed the ball up in midfield. As you say, Nixon was quick onto it. Nixon made ground. They've recycled possession. Lovely grubber, and Ferguson is in like his namesake L. Ferguson in that same corner that stemmed from a similar situation in the first half. This time it's Lachlan, and it's game on. Yeah, I got a bit of a dry run in the first try to try and make sure I got my names right for the second, but it was definitely Lachlan Ferguson, ex-Merchiston pupil.
now playing as a mainstay in this Selkirk team and showing what asset he has. He's a right stocky little winger, but managed just to pump the legs and get downfield and get that try to narrow the margins here. Selkirk 5, Hawick 10. If you're just tuning in and you hear me saying Craig Jackson to take the kick for Selkirk and sound surprised, it's his first outing for this Selkirk side, and it's almost hugging the touchline here at Philip Hawke. Right-footed kick. He's made a good connection with that, but he's perhaps just got under it too much, and it just snakes to the right-hand side of the post. So no conversions, no kicks here this afternoon, but Selkirk 5, Hawick 10.
Yeah, interesting substitution for Hawick here. On comes Ethan Riley, the Australian, just come over from Perth, arrived this week. As I said earlier, from his highlights reel, he looks quite the player. So yeah, let's see how he goes on a damp day at Selkirk.
Yeah, it's a replacement for the earlier try scorer Lewis Ferguson, who's limping off at the goal line area, but the restart has been dealt with well there by Scott McClyman, the very industrious back row. He's a very, very good player. Just an update as well, Jed 20, Curry 19 now at Riverside Park as Aaron McComb from the box kick kicks downfield. It's been gathered there by Linton, palms one off, tries to barge over the other, does just that. He's then got Cochrane for some support. He does well to try and just tie his shoelaces together and get him down to ground. Ross Nixon now busting out of the line and offering his services in defence, and you feel that this Selkirk defence is going to have to be impregnable now as Fraser Rennick just bursts out the line. He looked like he got a couple of knees to ground there and set up the ruck, but the referee allowed Selkirk to continue to rip the ball. Now Kirk Ford kicking downfield. He manages just to escape the clutches, but I feel Selkirk almost had dealt well with that. It was Ryan Cottrell who tried to gather a very awkward bouncing ball over on that far side, but he's been adjudged to have knocked on in the act of trying to gather that ball, and it's going to be a put into the scrum for Hawick.
Yeah, another great attacking position for Hawick as Lachlan Ferguson hobbles to the Hawick bench. Sad to see. It was Kirk Ford with another intelligent kick there, and just got Hawick that bit of respite that they've maybe needed after the last 5 minutes or so.
It's going to be a put into the scrum to Hawick in an attacking position. It's certainly going to be probably their best opportunity since their last try. It's still Selkirk 5, Hawick 10. We'll be able to get an update of the scores around the country very shortly, but we'll keep our eyes firmly on the action here at Philip Hawke just now as they put into the scrum from Patterson. Has been well protected and hounded by a very robust Hawick scrum. The arm is now out. You would imagine that Hawick have got a free ball to play with here. If they can get it back on their side, they do just that. So they take the play further towards the line as Patterson looks to try and have a little snipe. He finds Rennick, Fraser Rennick, who's been a replacement for Carrier, and now Hawick looking to try and utilise this free ball from the advantage from the scrum. Patterson finds Brunton out the back. He almost tried to find Mitchell, but it's just been knocked on there, and it's going to come back for a penalty to Hawick. And I would imagine they'll go to the corner here. It might be an opportunity for us to get some scores from around the country, as Hawick will just go through their options, and we can go back to Hugh to find what are probably the important scores around the country.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. And I can tell you, Riverside Park, what a seesaw game it is. Currently, it's Jed Forest 20, Curry 24. Jed Forest 20, Curry 24. We know the full-time score in the Premiership was Musselburgh 11, Mar 8. What a win that is for Musselburgh. Meanwhile, in National League Division 1, latest score at the Greenyards is Melrose 9, Kelso 14. Melrose 9, Kelso 14. And in Division 1, it's still Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 13. Back to Robin and Dale.
Yeah, this is a very interesting position for Hawick to be in. Their driving maul is potent, so they're about 6 or 7 metres away from the Selkirk line, and Fraser Rennick is going to throw into the line out. Job done there. They bring Fairbairn down to ground, but the maul has been brought down to earth. It's been spoiled there by Selkirk. The referee has flailed his arm out as well and given the advantage to Hawick, so there's a penalty coming, and the referee, a shrill of the whistle, saying that they brought it down. Luke Petty raised his eyebrows there, and I think that was in agreement with the referee as they looked to try and stop what possibly was going to be a green machine onslaught.
Yeah, they've scored a few tries from this type of situation over the years, Hawick, haven't they? And they've come back for a penalty, and you'd imagine it'll be take 2 here, Dale, or did he signal for the scrum?
I think they've signalled for the scrum, which judging by the last effort, is a very wise call, because it was a scrum that certainly had the upper hand, and you would imagine they'll be looking to try and nudge their way closer to the Selkirk's try line. Obviously get a bit of itchy feet here. It's Selkirk 5, Hawick 10. About halfway through the second half here on Borders Rugby Special. Live from Philip Hawke in Tennent's Premiership as Hawick look to try and maintain their unbeaten record. They hold the cards just now as Patterson rolls the ball into the scrum. The nudge now comes on from the Hawick pack. It's going forward. It's been hit by a few hands there. The referee has again signalled for a penalty, and you would imagine this is penalty try territory now. And if I was the Hawick captain, I'd be quite quick to be signalling my intent to the referee to play his mind and let him know that you've got every confidence that your scrum is dominant, but James Head was signalling for a replacement, and I don't know who for.
Yeah, he's frantically looking for somebody to come on, and it looks like
Luke Petty, I think he is calling for, actually.
Zvadrak looks stripped and ready for action again.
Interesting call to bring a prop on in the danger zone. Bruce Riddle is also stripped and ready to go, so they've got two props there, and you just wonder if they're maybe going to bring off James Bett as well and put Bruce Riddle a hooker. You can see Kieran Thompson is the player who just was brought on a few minutes ago. He's been withdrawn, and James Bett is the other player to be brought off, and Bruce Riddle and Shafagjak are going to come on to the park and try and shore up this front row, and perhaps, an intelligent bit of communication there from James Head. But
player coach James Head.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, however.
Yeah, I think he's pulled rank in there. We shall see if it bears fruit as his decision.
Bruce Riddle's first introduction to this game is going to be trying to stop this Hawick scrum charging towards the Selkirk line. Selkirk trail 5 points to 10, and it's a put into the scrum, and it's going to be Hector Patterson for Hawick to roll the ball in. Another assured scrum there. It looks like this time it looked like Selkirk almost had the advantage. The referee is going to call for a reset scrum.
It was certainly a lot more solid than the last Selkirk scrum, wasn't it?
It definitely was, and if this is maybe not one for the rugby purist who likes a bit of open action, but this is an interesting part of the game. This could be pivotal in terms of who's going to go away from Philip Hawke with the points here, because that change in the front row has worked wonders initially, but it's going to be another reset scrum, and it's going to be Patterson to put the ball in. The front rows just having their last bit of communication before the lock horns yet again. Patterson will be having to keep a close eye on the ball at the back, because it has been getting a little bit clumsy underneath these legs, which have been charging and champing at the bit to try and get the nudge on. It looks like a little bit low on this near side. It's splintering and popping at the top. Shafagjak looked like he had the upper hand there, but the referee has deemed that to be a penalty to Hawick. I'm not a front row expert, but it looked like to me Selkirk had the upper hand.
Nor am I. It certainly looked to me that Fraser Rennick was the first man to pop from that set piece. Now are Hawick going to go for another scrum? And
yep.
Yeah, they are. They've not had it all their own way in the last two there.
No, but I would. I think that if you've got the penalty, you've got the rub of the green from the ref.
Yeah.
It's got to be in his mind that it's going to be a try. But Selkirk are digging in here at Philip Hawke. They're trying to protect the try that they've just scored, and they want to build on that. They don't want to make their job any harder, because they trail by 5 points, so this game is definitely still winnable. And on the touchline I can see Rudy McLeod as well as warming up. He's hitting some bags, so I wonder if Hawick are going to try and react to the changes from Selkirk with introducing a front row of their own. It'll be interesting to see how that does pan out. But I'll put into the scrum again. Patterson, he does find again Rennick's popping. I think he's not happy with that, but the referee's letting that play. Jay Linton is having to just clean that up at the back. Now Brunton, he finds Mitchell. Mitchell bounces, and he bounces really well and finds Kirk Ford on his shoulder to get the ball down. And a little bit of footwork there from Andrew Mitchell just put the question in the Selkirk defence and opened it up for Kirk Ford to go in for the score. And eventually Hawick do extend their league. We thought it was going to come from the grunt of the forwards, but it comes from the guile of the backs.
Just shows you what this Hawick outfit are all about. tight moments, you want your big players to stand up, Dale, and two of Hawick's key men there, Andrew Mitchell and Kirk Ford. What a wonderful assist by Andrew Mitchell, as you say, little bit of fullback, beautiful pass. Kirk Ford in attendance, and over he goes, and there is daylight.
There definitely is daylight now, and this is a big kick coming up, because there's a 10-point advantage now for the visitors, who are doing well to protect their unbeaten record. But this is probably one of the most attractive kicking positions that they've been in. A round of applause for Nicky Little as he comes off after what was a great effort in the front row. For
some shift.
Yep, totally agree. It was a great effort from Nicky Little, but Kirk Ford, the full-back, the try scorer and the conversion taker, gets the 2 points, so a full 7 points for him there, and Hawick extend their lead. It's now Selkirk 5, Hawick 17.
Yeah, and Hawick will be starting to think about 5 points here as well. That's 3 tries chalked up, so yeah, Hawick looking good now, Dale.
In their 8 games so far this season, Hawick have had 4 try bonuses, so I would imagine that they'll be trying to seek this next one. A replacement as Craig Jackson comes off and Jack Hamilton goes onto the park. Perhaps a little reshuffle of the decks as Aaron McComb gets play underway, kicks it high. Dalton Redpath is under this one, pause it goes into the hands of Munro Job. And Jack Hamilton now is at scrum half. Perhaps Aaron McComb moving to 10 or moving to fullback. We'll give you an update on that as Shafag just feeds off James Head. He managed to carry hard, and he's been impressive, even though he's had he's been withdrawn for the field of play. He's carried very, very hard, and McClyman has to punch above his weight to try and break through this Hawick defence. Now Bruce Riddle with his first carry of the game after being introduced shortly to try and stop the onslaught of this Hawick scrum. Now Luke Petty just holds his ground, feeds the ball, grabs it, just stands his ground and rides the tackle as McComb, who is at 10, finds Welsh, who bounces back in field, and he looks to bounce off Brunton, but not able to, but does take play up towards the 22 metre line. The referee's got a keen eye on that and making sure this ball is coming back, and Hamilton almost looks like he finds a gap, and Rooney McLeod doing well to just feed off him. Now McComb looked to throw the big ball through the dummy, and the defence was going with it, and Jack Hamilton now has perhaps got Hawick defence on its foot. Welsh has got a 2-on-1 situation. He's got 3 guys outside him. He tries to feed back in field, and it was Matt Reid on support. There was options there for Welsh, and I think he's probably chosen the wrong one, and there was an opportunity for Selkirk. They cough it up. Kirk Ford kicks downfield, and it's going to cross the whitewash here, exit the field of play, and it's been an opportunity there. It gives us a chance to get an update, catch our breath, and see what's been happening around the country.
Thank you very much indeed, Dale. Yes, latest score I can tell you up in the capital, Inverleith. It's Stuart's Melville 7, Gala 18. Stuart's Melville 7, Gala 18. Meanwhile, at the Green Yards, it's moved on as well. It's Melrose 9, Kelso 14 in that border derby. Melrose 9, Kelso 14, our latest score. In the Premiership at Riverside Park, it's still Jed Forest 20, Curry 24. Jed Forest 20, Curry 24. And elsewhere in the West, at Hamilton, it's Hamilton 21, Berwick 7. That's the latest score in that one. Hamilton 21, Berwick 7. And with that, I'll hand you back once again for the final stages of this match between Selkirk and Hawick to Robin and Dale.
Selkirk with the throw into the line out, and Robin, you would imagine that, I don't know what your thoughts are on Welsh there if he picked the wrong option, but it'll be interesting to hear shortly. As straight off the top, it's an accurate line out. Riddle being able to hit his target. Selkirk try and set the platform up midfield as McComb peels back round. He's not able to find Reid, but he does find Lachlan Ferguson, the Selkirk try scorer, but he just runs straight into the clutches of Muir. And now Hamilton digging about in the ruck. He's trying to keep the tempo going on the Selkirk attack, but it has completely came out of it. And James Head now just head down and just charges towards this Hawick defence. And Selkirk having to work very, very hard to try and get anything from their forays into the Hawick half. They do win the penalty, but Robin, do you feel that Josh Welsh perhaps chose the wrong option there in that attack?
Possibly, Dale. Yeah, possibly. There'd been a lot of good play in the build-up there. More sublime hands there by James Head in the build-up. He's played a lot of this game at first receiver, and he always seems to make the correct decision as to whether to put the head down or to do some lovely offloading. But speaking of second rows, when it did get put down by Selkirk in the run-up to what could have been a try, there was Dalton Redpath to mop things up. The work rate on these guys, the work rate of these big units is superb.
Yeah, and I think that is the I think especially Hawick, I think they do benefit from players like you think Mitchell, Redpath, Rennick coming back from some sort of exposure in the level up. But the amount of work he gets through, Dalton Redpath, he's got an engine on him, he's got pace, he's got power, and he's got a very good rugby noggin on his shoulders as well.
Can do the enforcing when he needs to as well, tough old boy.
It's the penalty to Selkirk as you rejoin the action here. Selkirk 5, Hawick 17, and it's Matt Reid who they've opted to go for the penalty. Right footed kick, he's certainly got good distance on that, and it's accurate as well. So Selkirk get the 3 points there, and it is now Selkirk 8, Hawick 17. So we've got 9 points in between these two teams. Still a bit of time to play here at Philip Hawke, so anything can happen. But Bailey Donaldson has come on to the park. I'm just looking to see who he has replaced. I think he's going to replace Kyle Brunton. And Bailey Donaldson is a player, I do like Kyle Brunton. I think sometimes they blow hot and cold, but Bailey Donaldson is a very, very good player. And I think that shows the strength and depth of this Hawick.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Stuart Graham's come off the bench as well for Hawick, 6 tries to his name this season. But yeah, this Hawick squad.
Fraser Rennick was he was almost in Bannerfield. He was that far offside there from the kick-off. But the referee and the assistant referees have let that play. But the kick has went deep inside the Selkirk half. So if they want to try and get some more points here at Philip Hawke, they're going to have to do it the hard way. They're going to have to go from deep inside their own territory. But the box kick has not got a lot of ground. It's not made a lot of, in terms of percentages there. And it's going to be a throw-in. On the stand side, Fraser Rennick's got the ball in hand now, and he's in between the 10 metre line and the 22, and you'd imagine that Hawick are starting to sniff blood here. Yeah,
if Hawick score next, that you feel, Dale, that it's game over. But we say it every week, next try is crucial. If Selkirk can nick one, albeit they're quite far from the Hawick line now, and it's Hawick possession, who knows?
An accurate line out again as Graham was at the tail, and it's now Ford who's in the 10 position. Through the hands of Huggin. Now Ronan McKean, he offloads to Jay Linton, who's lurking over there in the wider channel, which I love to see from a big powering back row, and he's swatting the Selkirk players off at will, and it's two worlds collided there as James Head and Jay Linton came together. There's options here out wide for Hawick if they can get the ball through the hands. Bailey Donaldson is not able to gather that as he received the ball from Mitchell. He's knocked the ball on, and that was an attacking opportunity, but how good is Jay Linton when he's got the ball in hand? He runs lateral, but he's just able to thwart players away and straighten up, pace, power, and he's got a bit of grunt as well.
That's it, footwork, pace, but that coming together with Jay, it was almost as if James Head had said, right, enough of this lad, and they, as you say, two worlds collided there. Probably the best two forwards on the park for my money this afternoon.
Yeah, I would say Jay Linton is he's a really polished player, and I think you would say James Head is a bit like broken biscuits. So they still do the job, but he's put together and he's taped together to make sure he can get on the field, because he is a phenomenal player. You see the experience that he brings. Yeah. And I think he has been a big change for me in Selkirk.
I was going to say, has there been a better bit of recruitment by any team in this division? In the summer there, he's been immense for Selkirk.
The penalty from the scrum for pulling that down went Selkirk's way. Another player who would probably add a little bit of grunt to that is Ewan McCullen, who's in the technical area, offering a lot of help from his experience in the professional game, both in Scotland and down south. Obviously not able to play just at the moment for Selkirk, but another player who was recruited in the summer is gathered well by the spectators on the side here as Aaron McComb makes some ground downfield, and a little update of some other border derby action. It's at the Greenyards. It's Melrose 14, Kelso 14. Kelso sitting at the summit, and Melrose have got them in their sights as well. So all to play for at the Greenyards, and it's still on a knife edge here. Selkirk 8, Hawick 17, and its play is now over the 10 metre line inside the Selkirk half. It's Hawick with the ball in hand from the previous line out, and now Fraser Rennick taking the ball into Shafag Jacques, who does well to wrap him up. Kirk Ford now playing at fly half, ghosts towards the line, and finds Sean Muir in support. It wasn't Sean Muir, because Sean Muir is about to get the ball, but if it wasn't for some really tenacious defence there from Callum Turnbull, it's now got a little bit scrappy, but the referee has deemed that to be a penalty. Centre field, and Selkirk will be able to try and sneak closer towards this Hawick half, because you do feel Hawick do feel a bit settled, although these errors are coming in.
Yeah, good defence by Selkirk there, you have to say. Gives them the opportunity to clear their lines, get a bit of territory back. They've not had that much territory in the last 10 or 15 minutes, Dale, and they're going to need some fairly swiftly if they're going to think about winning this game.
Difficult conditions. It's clatchy, it's wet, it's very sticky underfoot. There's been some errors in this game. You feel that Selkirk are going to have to retain that ball, go through the phases if they want to really test and try and manipulate this Hawick defence. Something which they've been able to do in waves and fits, but not really, apart from the score from Lachlan Ferguson, they've not really been able to do it too much. As Andrew McComb is lifted in the line out. It's scrapping unorthodox yet again from a Selkirk set piece, but they managed to get the ball back. There's mitts and gloves on that from Hawick, but Jack Hamilton doing well. He finds Riddle, who I feel as a player has got better over the last couple of years for Selkirk. He's been an important figurehead here at the club, as James Head burrows down and looks to try and make some yards, as Jack Hamilton keeps going the same way. Nixon up his first receiver, finds Welsh gets through the defensive line, but the referee has said that has drifted forward. I tend to agree with him, because I don't know if Ross Nixon had a past life as a waiter, because he kind of had that on a plate for Josh Welsh and just allowed him to take it off, but drifted it forward. But that was the first time we've really seen Josh Welsh hit the line hard and really penetrate this defence. Yeah,
it was a good option, just the execution was a wee bit off by Nixon. Wasn't a bad attempt by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, you feel it's going to take something like that from Selkirk to claw their way back into this. What are the 9 points adrift as the clock ticks on?
Yeah, we've not got long left in this second half. Still plenty of time for the tide to turn here at Philip Hawke. It's been a game that over the last 3 seasons anyway, minus the one that was hampered by COVID, there's only been 7 points to separate these two teams. It's 9 as it stands. There's been 2 draws in there as well, so 9 points to try and overturn if Selkirk want to try and keep the pressure on and keep going at the top, towards the top of the Premiership. Another team who are certainly looking to keep the pressure on at the top of their division is in National 1, and it's Melrose, who have added 2 points from a position where they were drawn against Kelso. They now lead 16 points to 14 against Kelso, who are the leaders in National 1, which makes it another interesting division. I think the Premiership, Nat 1 and Nat 2 are really intriguing so far this season. Thankfully, from our point of view, are led by border teams. But Bailey Donaldson, his first receiver, left-footed kick downfield, finds some good space, but Matt Reid is there for Selkirk. He puts his right foot to the ball this time, but it's straight back to Bailey Donaldson. Now Selkirk looking to try and play their figureheads on side, and it's Patterson who's looking to try and pin the ears back and go downfield. He's managed to just do some good work to manipulate the defence, but Aaron McComb is having to get back there and try and sweep up, because a little bit of pressure there from Hawick came on, but it's now in the steady hands of Jack Hamilton, who finds Shafag Jacques, who tips on to Riddle, and he almost breaks through the defensive line, and that tip on there has almost dislodged the defence. Nixon is up and boot to ball, crossfield kick. Reid's going to have to get up high. He's not able to flap it back, but it does go into the hands of Nixon, and now offloads to Josh Welsh. Now players over at the halfway line as Selkirk are looking to try and roll the dice now, and they're doing well to manipulate this Hawick defence. Now into the hands of Aaron McComb, who was sitting in the pocket. He's going to turn Bailey Donaldson, and Bailey Donaldson is just casually keeping an eye on that bouncing ball. It's now into the hands of Kirk Ford, who tries and steal some yards and then puts his right foot to the ball, kicks it towards the halfway line, and it's going to be a throw into the line out to Selkirk. And you feel that this game is starting to open up now, because Selkirk are rolling the dice.
Yeah, Selkirk need it to open up, but again, great play by Kirk Ford there. The man just makes very, very few errors. He does almost everything right, all the basics, and he's sent that to the halfway line.
A good exit kick there from Kirk Ford, and it's on the halfway line, and it'll be interesting as we enter the closing stages of this game and see what the lie of the land is across the country with you.
Thank you, Dale. Well, I can tell you it's a really interesting game through at Riverside Park. It's currently Jed Forest 20, Curry 31. Jed Forest 20, Curry 31 at Riverside. Meanwhile, at the Greenyards, it is Melrose 16, Kelso 14. Melrose 16, Kelso 14. And at Inverleith in Division 1, Stewart's Melville 7, Gala 25 is a latest score. Back to you, Dale.
Josh Welsh now taking the attacking play towards the Hawick line. It looked like it was opening up there for Selkirk. They did have the overlap there, but it's getting really congested in the tight areas as Jack Hamilton just slows the the tempo of the play down, but Ross Nixon now getting on the outside shoulder, breaks through the line. He's now got some options outside him, just can't get the pass away to a Selkirk player, but Shafagjak does well to gather the ball in the air. Bruce Riddle now, he gets the loose ball from his compatriot in the front row, and now Hamilton on the Hawick 10 metre line. He feeds Head finds McComb, McComb's got Cottrell, and that's great hands there as Welsh now looks to try and break and free from this defensive line. He does well to ghost his way forward. Just couldn't find the chink in the armour of the Hawick defence as Hamilton finds McComb. McComb has now got Ryan Cottrell, who just puts in a little hitch kick to try and dislodge the defence, but Ronan McKean is well over that ball there. And I'm wondering if that's going to come back on the Hawick side, but it's been well snaffled by Selkirk as James Head now charges forward. And this is a great opportunity for Selkirk to try and close the margin that they trail the visitors by. 9 points at the moment. It's 8 points to 7 in the favour of the Green Machine. Now a kick forward from Jack Hamilton. It's been gathered by Ronan McKean in the try area, and I wonder if that's been carried back over the try line, if he'd gathered it outside of the try line. A little conversation between the assistant referee and the referee. There's going to be a scrum down. It's carried over. That is going to be a dropout on the goal area. So it's been gathered in the goal area from Selkirk, and you do wonder, is there's going to be a little break in play? For me, I couldn't see all the options there because it was so fast paced, but for me that is an opportunity to slow down, get your forwards round the corner and continue to put pressure on the defence, keep it tighter, especially in these conditions. And I feel Hamilton has maybe just tried a little bit too hard to force it there.
Yeah, it was almost a bit of a Hollywood play, Dale. I couldn't agree more with you. I think Selkirk were very much in ascendancy there. They've got some of the more experienced heads in the forwards that would have relished a few more phases of that, I feel, and it was almost in the shadow of the Hawick post, but now it gives Hawick this chance with the goal line dropout to exit the scene.
Goal line dropout from Kirk Ford as a shriek of come on Selkirk comes from just outside the bar. It's certainly the fans here looking to try and get behind in what is a great atmosphere here at Selkirk in the Premiership. Hamilton has found McClyman, who's found space very hard to come by this afternoon. McComb fires the ball out to Petty. Petty now has found Andrew McComb. He's looking for the cut, but Lachlan Ferguson just doesn't offer it up quick enough for the back row player. And now Hamilton travelling with the ball finds McComb, who does well to pass the ball in an area where the Hawick defence were lurking, but it's been spilt forward as Selkirk look to gather the ball, and now Mitchell passes it to the hands to Huggin, and now it's over at the far side, and I think it's into the hands of Ethan Riley, the replacement. And now Fraser Rennick is charging the ball forward, and Hawick will welcome this, a period of pressure that they've got the ball in hand and they control where the game's going to be played from. And the guy controlling exactly that is Kirk Ford, who just sits in the pocket, licks it off his right foot and takes play towards the Selkirk 22.
That was a sublime kick at any time of the game, but at this late stage that was sublime by Kirk Ford. He has grown into this game. As I said before, your key man, you want them to step up, and he's more than stepped up in this second half.
I think he's a player that Hawick, if you asked me about 3 or 4 years ago, would Kirk Ford be a player that Hawick would rely on as much, I would have probably questioned it, but he is a phenomenal talent. I think he's unflappable at times as well, and his accuracy with his boot is very, very impressive, and he's taken play towards the Selkirk line and put the pressure back on them, and from the line out it's been flapped back on a Hawick side, and it's going to be Callum Rennick who's charging up, a very robust and turgid back row member. Another player who can play hooker as well. So it's certainly an abundance of talent in this Hawick team. But Huggin finds Donaldson. Donaldson has now got Ronan McKean. He tries to chip forward, and it's going to come forward there. The referee's having a look at that. Patterson gets the ball down, but the referee has adjudged that was a knock on there from Hawick. And it's a knock on from Hawick, and it is the final play in this game. Hawick almost looked like they could have stretched their lead at the end, but as it stands, they don't get the bonus point, but they do get the victory here at Philip Hawke, and it finishes Selkirk 8, Hawick 17. But that was a brilliant game in my opinion.
Oh, border derby ding dong. That was, Dale. Two teams that gave everything. All credit to Hawick, of course, on the victory. All credit to Selkirk. They battled to the end. No quarter asked, none given. A great advert for early winter border rugby.
I was almost caught by surprise. I've not really been clock watching because I've been enjoying the intrigue of this fixture, and I feel like that whistle kind of, the way that both teams were playing, it kind of caught me by surprise because they're both rolling the dice. They did not give an inch in that game, but it was a game that it was quite tetchy in the first half. Hawick went down the tunnel with a 5-point lead after a try from Lewis Ferguson earlier on in the first half. They came out very quick in the second half as well and got a try from Ronan McKean, but the margin was narrowed slightly as Lachlan Ferguson went in for a reply score for Selkirk, but Kirk Ford got almost the final say because he got a try and a conversion to take it away from Selkirk. They tried through a penalty from Matt Reid, but it does finish here, Selkirk 8, Hawick 17, and in the land of where the fixtures, in terms of their season, Hawick retain the Bill McLaren Shield, they stay at the top of the league as well, and they set the pace. Selkirk now have a battle now to try and consolidate themselves in that playoff place. I think this defeat is more damaging for Selkirk at the moment than it would have been for Hawick.
Yeah, I look at the upcoming fixtures. First of all, for Hawick, they've got Jed at home, they've got Musselburgh at home, they've got Musselburgh away, and I strongly fancy Hawick for a home semi-final now. And if they're at home, Hawick, then you fancy them for a final. Massive game for Selkirk, massive 3 games for Selkirk coming up. Hawks away next week. You talk about that battle for 4th. They've got Jed here at home, then Jed away. Selkirk, they're still in the run for a top 4 place, absolutely, but they could do with a couple of victories in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the thing that they'll be pleased of is that it's probably a bit of damage limitation as well, because you would think that the injuries can really disrupt this squad, but they've got players to welcome back as well, because I can see Russell Anderson with a Selkirk top on just in the huddle, Ewan McClellan there as well, and obviously welcoming Craig Jackson. So the influx of Super 6 players to the Premiership is going to be an interesting facet as we enter the closing stages of the season. We're obviously just now at the halfway point here, but it's certainly a win for Hawick. They'll be very impressed with that and chuffed with that, and I think we'll probably get the thoughts of the 2 captains as well pretty soon. But what do you feel is constitutes a good season for Selkirk at this stage? Because I've been surprised by them. They were sitting in 4th place before this fixture. It'll be interesting to see where they are after it. But is mid-table progress, or is the playoffs something that they should be aiming for now?
Mid-table's definitely progress after the season they had last year, but I think given the start they've had this season and the personnel that they've got, I genuinely believe, and rightly so by the way, I genuinely believe they've got an eye on the top 4, and I think it would be deserved if they made it. And I think there might be a wee element of disappointment. Guys like Scott White's a winner. James Head, multiple serial winners at Melrose. I think they'll be looking at top 4.
Yeah, and it's just great to see. I'm getting excited about this game before it started as well. Like you were doing a bit of prep and looking at stuff, and it was getting so exciting. And it's going to be interesting to see where these 2 teams find the lie of the land and where they're going to go for the rest of the season. And it'll be a good time to get maybe the thoughts from each camp as we pass back to Hugh.
Thank you very much indeed to our commentary team this afternoon, summariser Robin Purdie and commentator Dale Clancy. Let me give you some scores, some full-time scores that we haven't brought you yet. In National League Division 2 it finished Hamilton 28, Berwick 14. Hamilton 28, Berwick 14. Elsewhere in National 1, full-time at Millbrae is Ayr 29, GHK 17. Ayr 29, GHK 17. Don't have a full-time score yet from the Green Yards. The latest we heard was Melrose 16, Kelso 14, and in National 1 up at Inverleith. Not full-time either. It's Stuart Melville 7, Gala 25 was the latest we heard. We do have a full-time though in National League Division 1 in the capital. Watsonians 5, Biggar 21 has a full-time score. Watsonians 5, Biggar 21. And after the break we'll get reaction from both teams to the game we've just enjoyed between Selkirk and Hawick.
When the weather's dreich and a storm's a brewing, you need a strong, windproof, quality umbrella delivered with good old-fashioned customer service and at an affordable price. Up here in Umbrella Heaven we say you tackle the ball, we'll tackle the weather. UmbrellaHeaven.com for when the heavens open.
Based in Galashiels but covering the whole region and beyond, Borders Mortgage Hub is your one-stop shop for all things mortgage related in the Borders. Visit us at bordersmortgagehub.com or call us on 01896 807 008. That's 01896 807 008. Borders Mortgage Hub. Mortgages for the Borders in the Borders.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, this is George Ingles here, and I'm thrilled that my songs are now available on 2 albums, Anthology and Lockdown Blues.
Late in the evening, she's wondering what clothes to wear.
Both available on iTunes to download and stream.
I am the train, been gone since 69.
George Ingles Anthology and Lockdown Blues. Check them out now on iTunes and other digital sites.
To commemorate the 7th anniversary of the opening of the Borders Railway, an 8 DVD box set is now available featuring the complete series Borders Railway from start to finish, plus the full hour-and-a-half documentary 5 Years On, which examines the possibility of an extension to Carlisle, plus extra features including a cab journey along the entire Borders Railway, all for the special price of just £14.99, including post and packing. You can get your copy direct from hotdisc.co.uk/shop. That's hotdisc.co.uk/shop. The 8 DVD box set, the complete Borders Railway, is available now.
Hi, Nicky Walker here, Curriculum Learning Manager for Sports and Outdoor Activities at Borders College. Have you ever considered turning your passion for sport into a rewarding career? If so, then why not get in touch at borderscollege.ac.uk/sport.
Borders College, regionally focused, globally engaged.
This is Borders Rugby Special on Borders Rugby Radio.
And welcome back from me, Hugh Brown, to Philip Hoch, where the match finished this afternoon. Selkirk 8, Hawick 17. And I'm joined now by the skipper, first of all, of Hawick. That's Matty Carrier. Matty, good win for you this afternoon, but it was tough.
Yeah, it's always tough when we come down to Philip Hoch. Selkirk always put up a good fight, no matter what the positions are in the league. So, but at the end of the day, we're quite happy to come away with the points.
What do you think the difference between the two teams was this afternoon?
Not a lot. I don't think the set piece was quite equal. It was just errors were made. Some reacted a wee bit quicker as others, and I just obviously just a couple tries in it, so wasn't much between us today.
Absolutely, and it was tight for quite a long. Not any scoring, in fact, for the first half hour of the game.
Yeah, the first half was hard for us. I think we defended for 35 minutes of it. We couldn't really seem to get our hands on the ball, and when we did, we couldn't keep it. Selkirk done well to keep the ball and made us work hard in defence. So. It was a tough first 40.
Certainly was, but you finally got a breakthrough and ended up winning 17 points to 8. You must think that is a fantastic victory in a border derby.
Yeah, definitely. I think our coach is a wee bit disappointed we've left the bonus point out there, but when you come to Philip Hoch, you take the win. If you get any extras, any bonus points, it's a bonus as it is, but we're happy to come away with the points.
And when you met earlier in the season, the first game of the season, it was a draw between you 20-all, so victory this time goes to the green machine.
Yeah, definitely. We had a wee bit of a point to prove, I think, after the start of the season. We were disappointed first game of the season to get that draw, so to get the win here at Philip Hoch is good.
Absolutely, and a real team performance, I thought, this afternoon.
Definitely.
Did anybody stand out for you?
I think there was a lot of boys stood out. I think Grant Huggin played really well at 12. Callum Rennick in the back row and that again as well. So it's a good team performance. Bench came on, done a good job as well, which always helps.
Guys in commentary were singling out Kirk Ford as well.
Yeah, Kirk's had another good game. You could always rely on Kirk to step up and put us in the right positions.
When I saw you a couple of weeks ago up at Maleny Park against Curry, that was another. You've had some really difficult games recently, and none of them are easy in the Premiership, obviously. But Curry gave you a hard game, but you came through that when you've come through this one this afternoon. You know, edging your way forward in the Premiership and still, at the top of the league. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's no easy games in the Premiership, so you just work week by week, and it's always a tough game. And the confidence is growing. We've got good competition through the squad this year as well, so it's building for a good season, hopefully.
It certainly is, and well done this afternoon. That's vital points for Hawick this afternoon, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
That's Matty Carrier, the skipper of Hawick, and from there we'll move across to the losing side this afternoon, the home side, and Luke Petty joins me now from Selkirk. Well, it was a tough game, as I said. Luke, how did you see it?
Hawick coming down here, they're on a great run, but we had the confidence up during the week. We were going to take a challenge to them. We've done that in areas of the field, but we just weren't executing enough in the final third.
No, you had opportunities, but you couldn't quite capitalise on them, it seemed to me.
Yeah, I think the first half played a lot of rugby in the middle of the park. That tire, it's tiring, it's quite heavy out there, but You need to play in the right areas and execute when we do get in the 22, and we failed with that today at times.
You did. I mean, what do you put that down to?
Listen, we've followed Hawick. This is the turning point of the season, except Jed. Watch them every week and they're stuffy. We know exactly what we're going to get, and credit to them. They're working hard. Nothing's easy round about the fringes, so you don't get any easy ball to go forward with.
I can tell you Jed Forest lost this afternoon at Riverside Park. It finished Jed Forest 20, Curry 31, so Curry get a win.
Yeah, you'll look at the scores week in, week out, and there's some strange ones there. But it's really good competition in the Premiership. I say that week in, week out, it's kind of repeat myself like a parrot, but it's every game's tough. There's no easy game.
It is, and so what can you do to make the score go the other way next week when you to get a victory for Selkirk?
We'll get a break next week, which is probably going to come because it's been tough. You said to Matty there just a minute ago, the block of 4 games, top end of the table, fighting with each other week in, week out. It's very, very tough going. But we regroup, do a bit of video analysis, see where we can improve, and we just need to keep going, dig in there.
Absolutely, and the home support is very important for you. They were cheering you on this afternoon.
That's something we speak about. We seem to travel on the road better, perform better on the road than what we do at home, so we've been due them one, and it's coming. It's really close, but again, we're just pipped at the finish line.
Well, hard lines this afternoon. Hawick ended up the victors and the better team, but good luck to you in the coming weeks. Yep. Good to see both sides doing so well in the Premiership, and let's wish you all the best for the rest of the season. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks very much.
Luke Petty there from Selkirk, and also with me was Matty Carrier from Hawick. I can tell you elsewhere in results this afternoon, through at the Greenyards, it finished Melrose 16, Kelso 14 in the Border Derby in the National League Division 1. Melrose 16, Kelso 14. So a victory for the home side there, just by those 2 points. Also in National League Division 1 through at Millbrae, Ayr 29, GHK 17 is a result. Ayr 29, GHK 17. And in Division 2, it's finished Hamilton 28, Berwick 14. Hamilton 28, Berwick 14. Well, let's have a chat once again with Dale Clancy, both about this afternoon and also looking ahead to the Scotland match, which kicks off in about 40 minutes up at Murrayfield against Australia. Let's look at that for a moment or two, Dale, because Scotland have won the last 3 encounters with Australia, but this is a different Scotland side because, of course, Gregor Townsend has been very much restricted in who he can actually choose this afternoon because he can only go for home players from Glasgow and Edinburgh. That's going to make it a very unusual Scotland squad, isn't it?
Yeah, we've seen it before. In autumn internationals, sometimes the window that you're allowed to get players who play out with Scotland, it sometimes does, throw some quite funny, positional changes in personnel. It does, give that added little bit of questionability about in terms of why are we playing it outside the window. However, I think it's pretty good because you look at players like Stuart Hogg. If you ask him to play against Australia, he's done it a few times, so he'd be completely fine. But you've got the replacement Ollie Smith in there, and you've got some changes in that squad that immerses them in international rugby. So it's a nice change. It's a nice adage as well because it's quite difficult to get tickets for Murrayfield sometimes. So it allows the spectators and the punters to get a little bit of more of an option in terms of what they're going to be taking in over the autumn.
Absolutely, and how do you see this one going this afternoon? Because as I say, it's the first of the autumn tests. Do you think Scotland can beat Australia?
Yeah, they definitely can. I think Australia, as well as New Zealand, have blown a little bit hot and cold over the last couple of years actually. The only thing is you're a bit further removed from the international setup, but it's just been a little bit too much in terms of negative press at the moment with Scotland, with the omission of Finn Russell, and they keep using the term stripped to the captaincy of Stuart Hogg. I don't feel he's really been stripped to the captaincy. I think it's been redistributed towards Jamie Ritchie. So I think it's certainly a game that we can win because I don't think there's anything to be scared of now when you're a Scotland national team in terms of going against these big guns. The only one that I think we ever have a fear factor about is New Zealand and possibly South Africa, but just because of the sheer size and the way that they play. But it's certainly a game that we can win. Over the whole Autumn Nations series, I would imagine that I think 3 wins they would be targeting. I think they would concede that they could lose 1 game, but they'll certainly be looking to try and at least win at least 3.
And what did you make of the choice of Jamie Ritchie as skipper for Scotland?
Great. I think he just carries himself really well in the press when you hear him. He was a young player who was identified for really big things early on. So I think that it's almost like his natural progression to be captain for probably hopefully a long period. Stuart Hogg obviously got the captaincy after Laidlaw, which was, he got it in probably more of the dying embers of his international career. So it was a guardianship slightly. He was looking after it until the next one came through. And I feel Jamie Ritchie, in all honesty, is probably a really wise pick from Gregor Townsend, because he leads by example on the field. He's always one of the best players. I don't know, especially what Robin's take on it as well. If he's got any kind of assumptions of what the selection of Jamie Ritchie is, but he's a calm head. He never looks flustered. He's very disciplined as well. So I think Jamie Ritchie's a good pick.
An interesting quote from Gregor Townsend this week was that the door is always open for any players, and you have to think in that one he might be referring to Finn Russell.
Yeah, well, he's certainly not referring to me. I'd say he's got to be a bit more realistic with that quote, but it's just one of those things that we never hear anything about. I love transparency in rugby. I think it would be one of the things which is always great. You always hear the ref, and you always, the coaches give you an honest opinion after the game. They call out players. You're able to take criticism. It's a bit different to football, but I feel Gregor Townsend is perhaps a little bit tactile with his words that he's using when he's speaking about Finn Russell. He's a once in a generation talent for us. He's an absolute maverick at 10. He puts in a performance for Racing the weekend. He's technically dropped, and then he gets the backing of his club. There's something else other than his performance, because he's an absolute cracking rugby player. So I don't know what the overall opinion is, but I think Gregor Townsend's perhaps been a little bit secretive with what is the real reason behind that. But it does emerge more tens. Ross Thompson's not played a lot for Glasgow, but he'll get a chance. He's on the bench obviously in this fixture. And then you've got Kinghorn and Hastings, who's been playing pretty well for Gloucester, and he's been dropping balls over from the halfway line, down for Gloucester. So it gives us a little chance to see players for the future as well, and that's what the autumn series tends to be. Giving players a chance to try and immerse themselves in international rugby and get a little chance and see what it's like.
And you're predicting then a Scotland victory this afternoon?
You've put me on the spot an awful lot here, Hugh, but I think you've got to fancy them. I think you've got to fancy Scotland at home. We're pretty good at home. I did predict Selkirk would win the game here that we were covering this afternoon, and they ended up losing, so it shows you how well informed I am in terms of making predictions.
Absolutely, never predict.
Yes.
Interesting thing, we mentioned it a couple of times, but it does mean that this afternoon's match means that Hawick retain the Bill McLaren Shield as well. Yeah,
and I think that Robin's got a great take on this, because he's obviously, we were touching about it during the game, the Bill McLaren Shield. I know, like Matty Carrier, the captain who just spoke for Hawick, I'm good friends with him, and I know how proud he was when he could win that and he could lift it for Hawick, a club that's really taken Matty in under their wing, and treated him as one of their own. But the pride that he had of getting the trophy, and Robin, you alluded to it in commentary in terms of, you would like to see it as a more permanent fixture and something which is probably, like craved a little bit more by the clubs.
Yeah, as I said in commentary, I liken it to then. I think that was kind of why it was brought in. It would, to almost be like the Ranfurly Shield in New Zealand. And speaking of your good friend, a good friend of mine, Clark Laidlaw, was a coach at Taranaki back, I think it was 2011, when they won the Ranfurly Shield at NPC level for the first time in goodness knows how long. And Clark to this day will say that's one of the best things I've ever been involved in. For all he's achieved, it's massive down there, and it just gives games and as well as championships an added thing. And yeah, I'd like to see a wee bit more. It's still in its infancy to an extent, but I'd like to see a wee bit more made of it.
We do see a bit with the Edinburgh teams, because they do, they play for like shields, and they play for trophies which are maybe for players that have represented both clubs. I know Watsonians and Heriots have one, and Boroughmuir and Watsonians have one that they play for. It is just a nice adage, because it's difficult in club rugby with the with the change to professionalism, and then now the emergence of Super 6. We do need to try and gravitate people back to these clubs, because they're more community clubs than they ever have been before.
Definitely, without a doubt. And yeah, that's something as I say, that could be a little bit more could be made of, and it'll be interesting to see as time goes on if that will be the case. I'd like to see it.
A couple of results to bring you that we haven't brought you actually, chaps. Dumfries 18, Lasswade 14 in National League Division 2, and one other one we haven't brought you from the Premiership, interesting one, Heriots 19, Glasgow Hawks 42, a good win for the Hawks.
Yeah, I think Hawks are a team that are going about their business pretty well. I think last year they learnt from a lot of their mistakes because they were there or thereabouts and just missed out on the playoff spots. It was Edinburgh Accies who managed to sneak in, and I feel like that's perhaps something that you look at Hawick, Hawks and Edinburgh Accies. I feel they have learnt a lot of lessons from last year, and I think that especially this game, Hawick, they look a different team to last year. They look confident in their abilities. I think they've plugged the gaps that they've been able to as well in terms of their squad, but a great result for Hawks. It keeps the pressure at the top of the table, but Hawick for me, I've learnt a lot from last year, and they, having Redpath there, a new halfback pairing, personnel, depth on the bench, they look really, really impressive.
Oh, without a doubt, guys they've brought in done exactly that. Young Hector Patterson, I've been impressed by him, and Hawick have played Accies away, they've played Curry away. Those teams have to come to Mansfield, and for me it's a home semi-final all day long for Hawick. Yeah,
I tend to agree with that. It's certainly looking good for Hawick.
Thank you very much indeed to Robin and to Dale for this afternoon's coverage of the match here between Selkirk and Hawick. Let me just round up the results for you. There were wins in the Premiership this afternoon for GHA, for Glasgow Hawks, for Curry, Musselburgh, and of course here for Hawick. In National League Division 1, wins for Aberdeen, Ayr, Melrose, Gala, Stirling and Biggar. And in Division 2, Hamilton defeated Berwick, and last night Peebles won in against Kirkcaldy 52 points to 15 on the road. No show next Saturday as Scotland take on Fiji, but we'll be back in 2 weeks' time on November the 12th between 2 and 5 when Stuart Cameron will be here with live commentary from Mansfield Park of Hawick versus Jed Forest. Hope you can join us then. Thanks to all the team here at Philip Hoch. Thanks for your company. And until the next time from me, Hugh Brown, it's toodaloo from Hugh. Bye-bye.